October the 8th last year. Most of the abuse images involve girls aged around 10, but in one, an 18-month-old baby was being raped. Laws, who had no previous convictions, told the police he'd only viewed child pornography in the course of his work. Sentencing him to 12 months in custody, suspended for 2 years, Judge Michael Baker QC told St Albans Crown Court it was because of Law's background he wasn't immediately going to prison.
The Labour leader, Ed Miliband, has admitted that the past few weeks have been tough after reports that MPs from his own party wanted him to step down. Mr Miliband insists that criticism of his performance would make him stronger. Scientists at the European Space Agency are anxiously waiting for fresh information before they can be sure that the space probe they landed on a comet has remained in place. Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are part of the project. The lander has already sent back pictures of a craggy grey landscape. Mission manager Fred Janssen says that material should help us learn a lot more about our planet's own beginnings.
The mission is of enormous importance to ESA, also because the ambition of the mission, what we're trying to achieve, connect ourselves to the origin of the solar system, the planets, and the emergence of life on Earth. So it has been compared in the media with the lunar landing, and I think in terms of ambition, it definitely can.
The BBC's one-show Rickshaw Challenge arrives in Buckinghamshire today, raising money for children in need. The team of riders, with presenter Matt Baker, will be cycling through Buckingham, Winslow and Aylesbury. So far, they've raised over £600,000. In sport, the BBC has learnt that an inquiry for football's world governing body, FIFA, clears Qatar of corruption during its successful bid to host the 2022 World Cup. But it's understood that England will be criticised for its behaviour during its failed attempt to stage the 2018 competition. The weather, some bright or sunny intervals this morning, but strengthening winds and rain will spread from the west by mid-afternoon. A maximum temperature 14 degrees Celsius. And you can get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties.
We're in.
Today on BBC Three Counties Radio.
From 9.
The JVS Show.
With the big phone in, the hottest topic of the day, and your consumer problems. From 12.
Nick Coffer.
With the author of Be Stiff, the story of the legendary punk label Stiff Records.
From 3.
Roberto Peroni.
I'm here with a roundup of the day's news, the latest travel, and your stories.
From 7.
Mark Forrest.
I'll bring you the best bits from everything that's been happening on BBC Local Radio.
Today on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, guys. Proper good show we got today, isn't it? Dodgy coppers, slippery when wet landlords, and giddy scientists. We managed to land a camera on that thing. Everyone was so excited. Did you see the geeks rejoicing? Some of those guys will have slept with a lady for the first time. How cool is that? Speaking of ladies, Kelly Betts.
Hello.
Betsy and Mama Boyle.
Sorry?
What?
What did you just call me?
Hey! 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
I mean, if you're going to give me Mama, at least call me Mama Kath.
Well,
It sounds like a list.
Mama Boyle.
No, I don't like it.
Why not, mate?
Well, firstly, you're the oldest one in this team.
Okay.
Ain't your mama?
Yes.
Mama Boyle sounds old.
Yeah,
Exactly.
doesn't she? That voice, so croaky. The thing is, you never get to decide your own nickname. We don't make up our own nicknames. The world doesn't work like that. We've all tried at some point to get. We've come up with a cool nickname for ourselves, and we've turned up at work or at school and say, "Well, you know, guys, I'd like to be called." I don't know, Super Lee or something, right? And everyone's gone, yeah, right, okay, and they instantly come up with a jokey version of that.
What,
Smelly.
What have your nicknames been?
Well, because my real name is Rugby, I used to be called Ruggers a lot. I used to be called Crazy Legs Crane a lot. Sorry? Mm-hmm. Because I ran like the cartoon character Crazy Legs Crane. I didn't like that one. That one came from Brian Webb, who was a bit of an idiot.
What'd you call him?
Spidey.
What?
He'd have liked that.
No, he would have done. You couldn't. Anyway, what other
Cliff.
nickname? Lanky. I had Lanky for a bit until an even lankier guy joined my school, and then I lost my lanky status. What are your nicknames, Kels?
Anything small, really. So it was like short.
Fly.
Titch, midget.
Wonder where that was going.
Like anything like that.
What have your nicknames been, Mama Betts? Mama Boyle?
I don't want to go there.
What? Oh, boil on the bum, boil in the bag,
boiled egg.
Boiled egg.
And then there was another one.
Boil the kettle.
No,
Oh, go on, what's the other one?
I smacked a bully.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Boil ball breaker.
Oh, that is brilliant!
Where did that idea come from?
Yeah, I mean, it came from my brain
I'm not gay.
I'd like to sacrifice you.
I like the mushy peas.
Just take your anus out of the picture. Let's say it explodes. Women in underwear just look nice.
I'm not in a bad mood.
Oh man, we'll have some of that. We just had some of that. That's the Delgados. I think we're going to play a lot of Delgados and Emma Pollock, who's the singer there.
I like them.
Yeah, her voice, man. Wowzers. 08459 455 555.
Not in a bad mood.
Now, this is an incredible story. A Hertfordshire man has avoided a jail sentence despite being caught with nearly 2,500 child abuse images and films. Simon Laws from Berkhamsted is a former Metropolitan Police detective constable. That puts a slightly different spin on it, doesn't it, I think? He faces a fine and will have to give up his computer, as well as signing the sex offender register for 10 years. Justin Dealey's got more on this. What's the background to this case, Just?
Wow, incredible. The trial followed a raid on Simon Law's home in Berkhamsted. That was by Hertfordshire Police. Officers launched an investigation after Law's former partner asked her new boyfriend to check a bag Laws had left at home in Hemel Hempstead, which she thought contained DVDs. Now, inside that bag, Iain, he found indecent images of children, and the police were called. Officers then raided Law's home on October the 8th of last year. He told the police that he'd only viewed child pornography in the course of his work.
Yeah, I'm kind of I should warn listeners that this gets a little bit adult, this conversation, and I'm sure you can understand, so just be warned for the next few minutes. What was found during the raid on Simon Law's home?
I'm going to say this slowly because it's hard to believe, really. His computers, including one that he had previously belonged to the City of London Police, they were examined. 348 movies were found. With 228 at Category A. That's the most serial level, and 100 at Category B.
And here comes the really unpleasant guy, so you want to, put your fingers in your kids' ears.
There were 2,134 indecent images of children. Now, 212 extreme images involving human sexual activity with horses, dogs and pigs. Most of the abuse images involve girls around 10 years old, but one of them, and this is again absolutely shocking, one of them showed the rape of an 18-month-old baby. What was found on the computer.
Just to remind you guys, this is an ex-copper and he's not going to prison. What was said in Simon Law's defence? He must have had a flipping good brief.
Yeah, well, St Albans Crown Court was told that Simon Laws had no previous convictions. Robert Fitt, defending, said that Laws was of positive, good character. He had served in the British Army for 9 years until 1985. He was posted to Northern Ireland, where he had, in brackets, a bad time. The court heard that he was seeking advice for post-traumatic stress disorder and had been what was described in court as self-medicating with alcohol since 1978. Laws, he joined the Met Police in 1991 and after a number of other jobs and left in December of last year.
What did the judge say to Mr Laws?
Judge Michael Barker QC said that he thought hard about sending Simon Laws straight to prison. The judge said quite clearly there are serious disturbing images, well, we all know that, and in the course of making them, the lives of a number of children will have been significantly affected. But the judge, he decided that he could suspend the sentence because of Law's background. He passed a 12-month jail sentence, suspended for 2 years, with 18-month supervision by probation officers. Now, Laws, he must also attend an alcohol treatment programme and abide by a 9-week curfew. curfew between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m.
We've got 20 seconds, just. Any other aspects of the sentencing?
Simon Laws, he must abide by the terms of a sexual offences prevention order and sign the sex offender register for 10 years. His computers and storage devices were forfeited, and he was ordered to pay £500 costs and a £100 victim surcharge. There you go.
Justin, thank you. It's cost him 600 quid. It was almost worth him taking the risk, wasn't it? Wasn't it? For 600 quid? What do you say about it? I mean, listen, you can phone in and talk about that, but what is there to say apart from... There can't be anybody listening who thinks that was an appropriate sentence. Surely you're all going, well, he should have gone to prison. 08459 455 555. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things are looking like they're moving quite well at the moment on the speed sensors, and it's very quiet on the cameras. So having a look in Roxton around the Black Cat roundabout where the roadworks are going on, and that's okay at the moment, but that is likely to get busy later on. In Hemel Hempstead, Leighton Buzzard Road has some roadworks going on at Moor End Road, and that is likely to get busy as we get into the morning rush as well. And in High Wycombe on the A40 Oxford Road, there's a lane expected in both a lane closed in both directions at Temple Street, so there are delays expected around there. And also on Marlow Hill, there are temporary traffic lights at the junction for Marlow Road, so that is likely to get busy later on as well. There's no reports of any problems at the moment on the trains. Samantha Breff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Samantha. 6:17. It's Thursday the 13th, or unlucky for some, of November. I'm Iain Lee. These are your unlucky for some headlines. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off and are calling on Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. And the Children in Need Rickshaw Challenge, has ever a sentence instilled so much fear into people, will be in Buckinghamshire today.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I want to talk about this copper, this ex-copper, Simon Laws, let's not forget the name, who's had 2,500 child abuse images and films on his computer. It's not actually a lot. I know. Compared to a lot of other paedophiles and people who view this stuff, 2,500 isn't actually a lot. You get people that get like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 images on their... It's all shared. This is how they kind of move this stuff around. So 2,500 isn't actually a lot. But a significant number of that were Category A, which is the worst. 18-month-old baby being, having stuff done to it that an 18-month-old baby shouldn't do. And this fella... He's got a curfew, he's had his computer taken off him, he's got to pay 600 quid. It's almost worth the risk. It's almost worth taking the risk. If that's your thing, and that's all that's going to happen is you lose your computer and you pay 600 quid, well, you might as well have a go. That's what it seems. I want to talk about it, Catherine, but I don't know what there is to say, really. I mean, we could have the next 2.5 hours of people phoning up going, oh, this is disgusting, that we should have gone to prison. But that doesn't really take us anywhere, does it?
What about this idea that his background was taken into consideration, the fact that he'd been around this stuff, maybe he'd become, in some way, he'd been exposed to it, and so... does it make it better or worse that he was a policeman?
That's an interesting way.
Maybe not better. Does it make it more understandable?
Yeah,
the
that's
fact that
interesting.
he had seen some very, very difficult things.
He's had a traumatic life. He served in Northern Ireland. It sounds like he's an alcoholic, and he served as a copper. Did he work on the child abuse side of things? Because he said that he had those images for part of his work. So. But was that what he was actually doing, or was he just a copper that was chancing it, and that was the best excuse he could come up with? Does it make a difference? I guess that's the question. Does it make a difference that he was a copper? Was
the judge right to bear his background in mind?
Yeah, we can do that. Should backgrounds be considered when it comes to stories like this? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number.
And Bobby love, I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if that makes you feel alright. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. 'Cause I don't care too much for money, but money can buy me love. I'll give you all I've got to give if you say you love me too. I'll make money just can't buy. I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Just can't buy. I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Buy me love. Love. Buy me love.
So, Simon Laws from Berkhamsted, former copper, former soldier, found with some of the worst child abuse images you can get on his computer and films, and he got sentenced to, well, not a lot. He's got a hand in his computer and pay 600 quid. Catherine, you said that we had a call and then...
We did.
Sorry, did I catch you eating?
I've just got a throat sweet going on.
But you haven't got a sore throat, have you? You're just enjoying the voice.
I have. Can't you hear it?
Yes.
I'm getting husky. Anyway... We've got Jamie on the line, actually, but we had someone who called up earlier on who was furious about this story and sort of told Kelly, emptied his mind and put the phone down. We'd really like it if you'd give us a call back because we want to have a conversation.
OK. Jamie's on the line now. Morning, Jamie.
Morning, Ian.
What do you want to say?
Basically, he should be in prison. It doesn't matter what he's been through in his life. It doesn't give him the right to picture children and having sex acts on children. It's disgusting.
Now, we are trying to find out a little bit more about Mr. Simon Laws and exactly what it was he did in the police force. Let's play make-believe for a second. Let's assume that he was working on a department that had to view these horrific images on a daily basis. There are coppers, men and women, who have to do that. That's their job, is to go through those videos and those DVDs and those police files to watch those things, to see if they can identify the kids, the offenders, all of that kind of stuff. Supposing, Jamie, that had been his job, and somehow a switch had flicked in his brain, and instead of finding it repulsive, he found it exciting. Is that any defence? The fact that he had to endure that stuff day after day?
No, there's no defence to it. There isn't. Doesn't matter how you look at it. There's no defence to it. When he's finished his job, why has he still got the images on his PC? Because he's no longer part of that. Of that profession anymore.
Why did the judge let him off so lightly then?
They're the people we need to be looking at. Why are they giving out silly sentences?
Jamie, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. The thing I want to focus on is should we treat this guy slightly differently because of his background? That was taken into consideration. That's why he got what could be perceived to be a light sentence. Hey, maybe you think the sentence was appropriate. 08459 455 555. Now, last week we told you about a group of neighbours living on a mobile home park in Hertfordshire. I say living. There's evidence that some of them are risking their lives by being there. It's Newlands Park in Abbots Langley. They've been urging the site's owners to address a number of maintenance problems. Well, Catherine and I went and had a look this week, didn't we? Quite a few problems there.
Just a few, yes.
What's going on? Remind us of some of the things we saw.
Base is crumbling.
Yeah.
Well, one gentleman in particular having to crawl underneath his van to steady it every day.
The leg had fallen off. He had to put it up with a couple of struts of wood.
And he had a jack that he keeps adjusting.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going underneath his... I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely
There's
crazy.
a situation with the water bill where it's suddenly looked like it's gone up by 50%.
Well, they think that there's been a leak.
Yeah.
And because they've been asking the landlords to fix it and they haven't fixed it, they think that they're paying for this leak. Because they can't believe it's that heavy, the bill.
The landlords won't do anything. There is talk, and we have no evidence to back this up, this is just the stories we've heard, of intimidation from the landlords. So Three Rivers District Council have the power, should they choose, to step in.
Because they're the ones that granted the licence.
They can step in and they can sort this out. But they haven't. They're refusing to. Anne Main, the local MP, says that they were spineless. She suspects it's because the owners are travellers and the district council are scared of causing a rumpus. Well, Catherine and I went to meet the residents of Newlands Park earlier in the week, and this is what happened. So, Catherine and I at Newlands Park, joined by Mick. Whose responsibility is it to do the maintenance and look after things like subsidence and leaky pipes and things?
The bases are strictly the providence of the owners of the site.
So it's, just to clarify, it's the owners of this site who should be doing stuff, and if they're not, then the council can step in and kind of force them to do something.
Well, the new Act gives them powers to issue enforcement orders, but the council are saying that as the legislation is discretionary, it doesn't mean that they have to act. But they're telling us that they don't have the staff and they don't have the cash flow to be able to do it.
Who's this we're going to meet? This is Eileen, is it?
This is Eileen Sims. She's our oldest resident. She's 92 years old.
Kath, we're going to have a quick chat with Eileen. You go first.
Let's have a look, because I hear that these trees around the back of your place are giving you a little bit of a nightmare.
Well, yes, because they're very tall and they haven't been topped. I'm 92, but I don't want to be killed by a tree, you know.
So you've been trying to go through the Residents' Association to get something done about these trees.
Yes.
And they, in turn, have had no joy from the owners, and the council doesn't seem to be willing to step in and help you out. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's no good waiting until somebody's killed, because there was an old couple lived up a few doors up, and a big branch came off one winter, went straight through their bedroom window and landed on their bed, frightened them to death because they were both elderly. You know, so I don't want that to happen to me.
We're coming up to a nice little cul-de-sac. What's going on here?
Yeah, the man who lived in there, who's died unfortunately, had dementia, and we think that it was leaking there for a couple of years. But the amount of flow coming out of there was tremendous, and we think it's caused subsidence. If you look at number 45, it's in fact touching the ground on the left-hand side where the bases have cracked. And next door has the same problem. The lady in there, lovely lady, in 46, she had all the brickwork done round the bottom of her home, which is now all cracked.
What's going on with number 41? That's all crumbling away there as well.
That's going, yeah, that's cracking. That's subsiding, and that's due to the bases cracking. And the owners said that they were going to repair the bases. They haven't done so. Number 46, her daughter has written to all the partners, no response from any of them. Number 45 now, he says when he has a bath he can't drain the water, but one of the properties that is subsiding, the owner is too terrified to speak to anybody. He is really frightened of the owners of the site. It feels quite intimidated.
He's been told that if he causes any more complaints, he was complaining about something earlier on, they would send the heavies in.
More on that later. Next time we must bring your muff with you.
Definitely. Sorry, it was really windy.
Wasn't it windy?
Which is why Irene was worried about the trees, because they were going like...
More of that later on, including what happened when one of the owners turned up whilst we were chatting to... I think it was Paul we were chatting to, wasn't it? One of the owners turned up. Three Rivers District Council have sent us a statement!
Hooray!
A week after we first asked for it. Bearing in mind, our reporter Tony called them up this week and they said, oh yeah, the guy that's dealing with that is on holiday and we don't know anything about it. Anne Main has thanked House staff for doing what they could to help resolve the concerns. Hang on, that's the same Anne Main that called them spineless. Is Anne coming on later?
Yeah, we're going to be speaking to her.
We'll read this to her. Three Rivers District Council say Anne Main has thanked House staff for doing what they could to help resolve the concerns. She's advised us she's arranging a round-table meeting with the aim of resolving the issues. The Council's remit extends to the site licence only. We found no evidence for breach of licence. Right, here's what's going to happen. We'll put that to Anne Main, who called them spineless in the Houses of Parliament, and find out if she agrees with that statement. I said the statement's not good enough. Shall I give them a call after the show today?
We're going to definitely give them
I will phone up Three Rivers District Council and say, look, come on, guys, this isn't good enough. I know Tony Fisher's been putting some excellent work in this, but I'm going to give them a cheeky little call and say, come on, look, this is not good enough. And whatever Anne Main says today, we'll put to them. More on that later on.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
There's been an accident on the M1 northbound at junction 7 for Hemel Hempstead. That's causing queues from the M25 this morning. It was blocking the road, but all the lanes have been reopened and it's been moved to the hard shoulder. But on the M1 southbound, it's looking very slow as well through the same stretch at junction 7 for Hemel Hempstead for people slowing down to look at the accident. In Bricketwood on the A405 North Orbital Road, it's very heavy at the moment at the M25 junction 21A roundabout. And in High Wycombe, the A40 Oxford Road has a lane closed for roadworks at Temple Street. That's in both directions, so that could get busy later on. There's no reports of any problems at the moment on the trains. Samantha Ruff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
With the headlines, I'm Simon Oxley. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Hertfordshire has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Simon Laws from Berkhamsted, who was a detective constable, pleaded guilty to 15 charges. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off. They want Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. European scientists are waiting to find out if the space probe they landed on a comet hundreds of millions of miles from Earth has stayed in place. Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are part of the project. And the BBC's One Show Rickshaw Challenge arrives in Buckinghamshire today, raising money for children in need. The team of riders, with presenter Matt Baker, will be cycling through Buckingham, Winslow and Aylesbury.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The BBC has learnt that an inquiry for football's world governing body FIFA clears Qatar of corruption during its successful bid to host the 2022 World Cup. But it's understood that England will be criticised for its behaviour during its failed attempt to stage the 2018 competition. Former FA Chief Executive Mark Palios says England appears to have been punished for being open.
They clearly have been the main protagonist within FIFA in terms of trying to drive some kind of proper accountability in respect of the World Cup bidding process. And rightly so. But having said that, I mean, there is one of these ironies in all of this, that if the FA have complied with the requests for evidence, which I'm sure they will have done, then, you know, they stand to be damned. Whereas people who have not complied and have not provided evidence and therefore cannot be criticised because, you know, the fact of the matter is they don't have the evidence.
Michael Carrick has withdrawn from the England squad. There's also a doubt over Tottenham's Andros Townsend for the Euro 2016 qualifier against Slovenia on Saturday. In tennis, Novak Djokovic beat Stan Wawrinka at the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena. The world number one recovered from losing the first two games to win 12 of the next 13 in a 6-3, 6-love win. He's now unbeaten in 29 matches indoors. Andy Murray faces Roger Federer this evening. And in rugby, England head coach Stuart Lancaster names his side later this morning for Saturday's match against South Africa. BBC Three Counties News and Sport. The next full bulletin is at 7.
If you hear a whisper, give us a shout.
Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Reference. I'm just doing something on Facebook, Kath.
Yeah. You might want to...
Post. Done. Right. Hey, so listen, I've got two great... What's wrong?
Got Richard.
Oh, blimey, yeah, thank you, I hadn't spotted that. Morning, Richard.
Good morning.
We're talking about this story, our kind of lead story this morning. It's about former police officer Simon Laws from Berkhamsted, who got found with some horrific child abuse images on his computer. And, well, basically all that's happened is he's got a curfew, his computers have been confiscated, he's paying £600. Should we take, as the judge said, his background into consideration?
I'm an ex-Bedfordshire police officer. I've worked with dozens. This man's behaviour is wholly unacceptable. There is not one person on this planet who's going to disagree with that. Gone in jail. They're the only person.
Oh, Richard! Richard, listen, we'll get you back. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get you back in a little bit because it's an interesting point you want to make as an ex-Beds copper, and I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, we'll give him a better line.
You got anything in the papers?
Yeah, well, this story about the White Widow, Samantha Luthwaite, of course.
Local celebrity.
Not so vocal, apart from on Twitter.
Yeah.
And there is a claim now that she's been shot in the Ukraine.
Oh, blimey, that's going to hurt.
Well... Although there's some suspicion that it might actually be just a bit of propaganda and that it's not.
She's with Procol Harum, isn't she? She's not with. She's the one that's kind of based in Nigeria, is it? She's that terrorist group. It's not ISIS. Boko Haram, not Procol Harum. That's a group from the 60s.
But now apparently she's been killed fighting in the Ukraine civil war.
Oh, blimey. That'll learn her.
This is the suspicion that it's just being used to sort of score points in a kind of a propaganda war, really, and that maybe it wasn't. Nothing like this has really happened. I think she's been turned into a bit of. Well, she's been turned into the poster girl, hasn't she? For the West turning against itself, and I wonder whether she was even in Ukraine at all.
Here we go. 2 terrified window cleaners dangle 700 feet up the New World Trade Centre after a cable on their rig snapped. Have you seen this picture?
Oh, gosh.
So they're in that little sort of the carriage that gets lowered down from the top of things, and they're cleaning windows, and the cable snaps, and it's hanging at 45 degrees.
Didn't that happen in Superman?
It did, and Superman went and rescued them. No Superman this time. 75 degrees, sorry. Witnesses looked on in horror as the platform lurched at 75 degrees with the men inside. Officials closed the plaza below, fearing falling debris. Yeah, I think we know what debris they feared falling. The men. It's believed the men, 69 stories up, that's a fact.
Also, bear in mind that if a peanut drops from that level, it will go through your head. Isn't that the story?
Yeah, it's only a peanut, though.
No, but didn't someone get killed just recently?
No one got killed by a peanut.
A spanner or something falling.
Yeah, a spanner's slightly different from a peanut. Significantly different.
There'll be scientists out there listening going, yeah, the peanut thing's true.
They were there. Let's get a scientist on, because that's not true. Can we get a scientist on?
Yeah, or a physicist.
They were there for 90 minutes. What were people doing? Just filming it on their mobile phones?
Couldn't someone open a window and let them in?
You can't open a window on the 69th floor. You get sucked off.
What about if they need some fresh air?
Air conditioning, mate. It's America, the home of the air conditioning.
They're going to be ill. They're all going to be ill.
Firemen smashed the window. But why did it take 69 minutes for firemen to smash the window?
They're walking it up the stairs.
Hey, listen, so I bought some CDs the other day that were recommended to me on Amazon.
Oh, great.
One is Space Lady.
Some of those recommendations are a little bit...
Yeah, I know. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and see what I can grab hold of. One of them is Space Lady. We'll play that later on. One is a group called The Shags.
Right.
Now, The Shags, I'd read about The Shags. This is only £2. This is why I didn't mind buying it. The Shags, like these 3 Christian girls, and they'd never heard music, but their dad bought them some instruments, right? And said, I want you to become the best rock and roll band in the world in the 60s. I want you to become the best.
Without actually showing them what rock and roll was.
Yeah. And then they just practiced in their basement for ages. And then one day he came and said, right, we're going to go and record an album. What? We're going to record an album. This is the album they recorded, right? Pick a song between 1 and 12, Cass. I've not heard any of this. I've got no idea what it sounds like.
7.
Number 7 is Things I Wonder. Well, let's find out exactly what things the Shags wonder.
There are many things I wonder, there are many things I don't. It seems as though the things I wonder most are the things I never find out. I wonder about the stars above, I wonder about the birds that fly, I wonder about your love, but most of all I wonder why you make me cry. I wonder why we have to say goodbye. There are some things I don't understand, there are some things I do, but one thing I don't understand is why we have to be so blue. I understand why you feel the way you do, because I feel the same way too.
This is this is powerful. Oh, it's not finished.
Why am I stripped astray? I wonder why life goes on this way. I wonder why we have to part. We both know it will break our heart. There are many things I wonder. There are many things I don't.
It's catchy.
Well,
gosh,
it rhymes.
Oh, I think we...
That's what happens when you record music without listening to music.
I think we may have just doubled Heart's listenership. Should we play a real song to clean our ears out? Yes, OK.
some, he won't wait. Watch them run down the platform 1 and the 8:30 train to Matthew and Son. Matthew and Son, the work's never done, there's always something new. The files in your head, you take them to bed, you're never ever through. And they've been working all day, all day, all day. There's a 5-minute break, and that's all you take for a cup of cold coffee and a piece of cake. Matthew and Son, the work's never done, there's always something new. The files in your head, you take them to bed, you're never ever through. And they've been working all day, all day, all day. He's got people who've been working for 50 years. No one asks for more money, cause nobody cares, even though they're pretty low and their rent's in arrears. Matthew and Son, Matthew and Son, Matthew and Son, Matthew and Son. And they've been working all day, all day, all day. Matthew and Son, Matthew and Son.
Well,
Matthew and Son.
Scott on Twitter says that the shags are brilliant. I think it's divided people. Kelly Betts, you enjoyed that, didn't you, Kelly? That's better than some of the guff you pay on introducing, isn't
I
it?
actually put Radio 2 on in here.
Sorry? What?
They were playing Ed Sheeran, it was great.
Ed Sheeran was better than this?
I'll do it again.
Nice. What about the chickens when they come? Oh, she is as well. This is going on. This is called I'm So Happy When You're Near.
So happy when you're near, I'm so sad when you're away.
I'm so happy when you're near. I'm so sad when you're away.
I think that we are missing a trick, right?
£2.50 this cost me.
We've got 4 kids between us. I've got 3 ukuleles.
We've got a piano. We're in.
A band.
We've got the shags.
Turns out no training required. Just lock them in a room with a tape recorder.
Later on, I do want to play Who Are Parents and also a song called My Pal Foot Foot.
The problem is, if we did let our kids release an album, every song would involve a bum.
Or a willy.
Yeah.
Hang on, please indulge me. 20 seconds of My Pal Foot Foot.
Oh. Strong start.
This is real.
This is what used to happen when the music teacher left the room.
Here comes the guitar. I mean, this could be the theme tune for the show, do you think? Great tuning, guys. Where's the song? Do they... Oh. Let's see if we can get... This might be an instrumental, because their instrumental skills are obviously excellent. Let's jump forward a little bit.
It's like Mike Oldfield.
Name is football, you always lies to wrong.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the legend I give you the shags. We'll have more of that a little bit later on.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 northbound, there was an accident at junction 7 for Hemel Hempstead that has now been cleared out of the way and the road it has opened again now. Those delays through there are easing off, but towards London on the M1 past junction 7 for Hemel Hempstead, it is still looking very slow on the speed sensors for people slowing down to look at the accident on the opposite carriageway. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's very slow between junction 21 for the M1 and junction 20 for Kings Langley. In Milton Keynes to A41 Standing Way, there's roadworks there at the Kingston roundabout, so expect delays there later on. And in Bearton on the A418 Aylesbury Road, there are roadworks at Burcott Lane, so that's likely to get busy later on as well. There's no reports of any problems at the moment on the trains. Samantha Bruff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Samantha. 6:46, it's Thursday. Unlucky for some, the 13th of November. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off and are calling on Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. And the Children in Need Rickshaw Challenge will be in Buckinghamshire today, where the hosts of BBC One's The One Show will be trying to find as many people as they can named Rick Shaw. Let's get the weather.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks very much indeed. We start this morning on a pretty mild note, 9-10 Celsius across much of the Three Counties area. And in fact, we're looking at another pretty mild day too. And dry actually for a good deal of the day, but we do have some rain by the end. So we start this morning with quite a bit of cloud, but we will have some occasional breaks in that cloud through the morning, but it's thickening up all the time. And for this evening's commute, there will be some rain around. It's pretty light and patchy, but certainly with us in time for as you make your way home this evening. Now, and then through the night tonight, it starts to dry up, but then we've got some more rain to head in for tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning's rain for the commute will be really pretty heavy and intense. It could really affect things on the roads, and we could have some hail and thunder mixed in with that, but it clears away quite smartly, gone by mid to late morning, and in the afternoon brightening up with a top temperature of 13 or 14 Celsius. And through the weekend, a lot of dry weather around, but we'll also be talking about quite a bit of cloud. Iain.
World War I at home on the BBC.
Sunday, 4th of June. Found the ward full of patients, so we took 29 last night, all Canadians.
We revealed some amazing untold stories.
The thing that made these particularly extraordinary was when we discovered just how old Albert was.
And discovered surprising local memories.
The boys from Hayward College, 589 died, which, was a lot, but most public schools actually have a very similar casualty rate.
If you miss them, go to bbc.co.uk/WW1.
The national propaganda was that a Zeppelin raid occurred. It turned out to be very much more tragic than that.
World War I at home on the BBC.
Justin?
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you want to borrow my Shag CD for your show midday on Saturday?
Listen here, son, you pipe down. Pipe down, okay? Last weekend, or last week even, you won an award. What was it, for Best Programme Presenter on BBC Local Radio?
Best BBC Presenter, yes.
Right, okay.
Second best programme.
So now you're just taking the mic, or you come in this morning playing the Shags. What is that mess you're playing? It's dreadful.
Hey, Justin, that is what happens when you bring your children up without music.
It's so bad.
Well, listen, I've got some musical memories.
Yeah,
would you play, for example, would you play for me We Have a Saviour on Saturday?
What's your memories behind the song?
I remember playing it on my show and annoying you. Yeah, you play that for me, Just?
No.
What?
No.
But you're supposed to be the music man taking requests.
Exactly, yeah, for the listeners, not you.
I've got a musical memory with it.
Yeah, but you're not a listener, are you?
I remember that Thursday on a cold November morn when you got really irate because I played the Shags to you.
Oh, wow, that is so bad. It is just not true. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
£2.50 that cost me.
£2.50 wasted.
What we're going to do with Justin this morning, apart from spank him?
Kim Kardashian's bottom.
Yeah, let's talk.
Should we do that one? Everyone's seen the picture, and if you haven't, imagine two massive brown balloons strapped onto a very skinny woman.
It's the Mitchell brothers.
No, not there.
Kneeling behind, the Mitchell brothers kneeling behind a rich mum. That's what's going on, and they've got their heads greased up with baby oil. It is She's a mum, isn't she, Catherine? You're a mum.
Yeah.
You going to do this?
No, Mum's bum is under wraps.
I don't know what do we ask about this?
How did you make your millions, Mummy? Well, this.
I oiled up and I got naked.
All right, Justin, we'll come to you in a second. Talking about Kim Kardashian.
I grew my bottom really big.
So this is a picture of Kim Kardashian, a woman I still don't know what purpose she serves in the world.
It's basically that.
Yes. The head from the neck upwards, it's all very Breakfast at Tiffany's.
She's beautiful.
From the neck downwards, it's all very much soft, hard porn, I would say. It's horrible. Like, she's done a photo shoot, she's bared her bum, she's a mum, she's a mother. That's not appropriate.
Does that make any difference?
Well, should we get Justin to ask? How are we taking this to the streets? Beeley?
I've got the picture in front of me right now for research purposes, obviously.
Yep.
The front page of Paper magazine. Everyone's seeing this. I think we should be asking, is this just a bit too much to be on the front page of a magazine? Not page 3, on the front page. She has got everything out, all oiled up. For me, yes, it may look good, but it's a bit too much.
I think if she's going to top this, she's got to have some sort of MRI scan, hasn't she?
I don't know how you would top this.
I don't think it looks good, though, Justin. As you know, I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Yeah.
But to quote Paul McCartney from 1968, I don't like that picture.
Why?
It's horrible.
What's horrible about this picture? A beautiful lady with a beautiful backside.
No, I think it's scary.
Why is it scary?
Because it's a monster. It looks like it's been grown in a lab.
Well, I would say what you're seeing is quite possibly not the real deal. What I'm saying is, I think that's been enhanced slightly to get all this publicity.
I tell you what we could do with this morning, Justin.
Yeah.
I just think we might need a bit of... Oh, hang on.
Oh, not the shags again.
Oh, no, hang on. Someone's taken my lady's perspective.
What?
Oh, hang on a second.
There it is.
Yes. All the ladies in the house. All the ladies.
The Ladies' Perspective with Iain Lee across beds, hearts and bucks.
The ladies.
That, by the way, is the Beastie Boys.
It was Peter Andre.
Yeah, Peter Andre is the voiceover, but the actual tune is by the Beastie Boys. A lot of people asking me on the streets, it's the Beastie Boys.
Can we get the ladies' perspective on Kim Kardashian's bottom?
Yeah, leave it to me, boss.
Thank you very much indeed. Here's an horrific story for first thing in the morn.
Oh, go.
A man killed his dad, chopped up his 25-stone corpse, and put the pieces in storage boxes, which he used as a TV stand. Flippin' heck.
It's not right, is it?
There's the understatement of the year, Catherine. It's not just not right, it's very, very wrong. Well, Justin, what do you think about it?
I oiled up and I got naked.
OK, that's really inappropriate, actually, mate. Really inappropriate. Unbelievable.
I mean, no matter what the row is, there's never an excuse.
Nathan Robinson, 28, used a Stanley knife, hacksaw and saw. OK, we go. I won't read that sentence. The court heard Robinson killed Mr. Spiller in their shared flat after they rowed about money. He then cleaned up, fled to Glasgow with £7,000.
This happened here?
Yeah, this is in this country.
I thought this had been some sort of crazy US backwater.
This is in Bournemouth.
What?
Which is kind of a crazy backwater, but it happened in Bournemouth.
Good grief.
Oh, God, I'm gonna say something that's horrible. So you might want to... what a horrible first hour we've had. Haven't we had some horrible stories? Let me just read this paragraph, and then we'll go back to... Jurors heard that on the day of the killing, the downstairs neighbour went round to complain about a pink liquid oozing through his ceiling. Ladies and gentlemen, that is perhaps the most horrific sentence I've ever had to read in my life. Have you got something? Give us a light story to cheer us up. I wasn't going to do the dentist who didn't clean his tools. No.
Here's one.
Light story, then we'll have a song.
A sigh of relief.
Yes.
A shocking 3.5 million Britons have not eaten a single vegetable in the past week.
What? It's daily, isn't it?
That's according to research. They've not asked me. Did they ask you? The findings also revealed only 53% of us eat up to 2 portions of veg each day. Dealy chips do not count.
No.
And some consumers even think Turkish delight, liver and cottage cheese count towards their recommended veg intake of 5 a day.
I tell you what, we need to have a little bit of music to lighten the mood. Here we go.
And hold my breath, scared to rock the boat and make a mess. So I
my stripes, I went from 0 to my own hero. You held me down, but I got up, already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake the ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, a fighter, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar.
It's a grim show this morning. Don't worry, we'll squeeze a few giggles in. The Giggle Factory opens at 7. We'll see what we can get. But there's a lot of dark stuff going around. This ex-copper found with some horrific images and films on his computer. Well, he's got a curfew. His computer's been confiscated and he's got to pay 600 quid. I don't want to do the what should have happened to him phone in. That feels a little bit lazy, but the judge took his past into account. Is there ever any excuse for that kind of behaviour? 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards,
over there.
And bugs.
That's Justin.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 northbound, there was an accident earlier on at junction 7 for Hemel Hempstead. That has now cleared, but it is still looking very slow on the M1 southbound towards London between junction 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road and 7 for Hemel Hempstead. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's very heavy at the moment between junction 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. And in Boreham Wood on the Barnet bypass, it's queuing between the Barnet Way and the between the Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. Looking at the cameras, looking very busy there at the moment. Elsewhere, it's starting to build up in High Wycombe on New Road into town at the moment, and no problems at the moment to report on the trains though. Samantha Bruff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Samantha. Tim's posted a picture on Twitter, the Kim Kardashian picture, but oh, someone's doctored it because I don't remember there being a bicycle parked in the original one. I think I'm going to have to retweet that. She's a mum. Is that too far, or is it just a harmless little bit of fun?
Local and vocal across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 7 o'clock. I'm Simon Oxley. The headlines: policeman from Hertfordshire avoids jail for possessing indecent images. Mobile home residents want council to take action. And rickshaw challenge heading for Buckinghamshire.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Hertfordshire has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Simon Laws, who was a detective constable, pleaded guilty to 15 charges. More from Ewan Duncan.
Officers raided Simon Law's home in Berkhamsted on October the 8th last year. Most of the abuse images involve girls aged around 10, but in one, an 18-month-old baby was being raped. Laws, who had no previous convictions, told the police he'd only viewed child pornography in the course of his work. Sentencing him to 12 months in custody, suspended for 2 years, Judge Michael Baker QC told St Albans Crown Court it was because of Law's background he wasn't immediately going to prison.
Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off. It follows a dispute between them and the owners of Newlands Park in Bedmond near Abbots Langley after the bill went up by a disproportionate amount, according to the residents. These people from the site say they want Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords.
We want them to enforce their powers. They have the power to take action.
It's neglected their duties. We need help. Help us.
The Labour leader Ed Miliband will say in a speech this morning that he is driven to become Prime Minister by a desire to change the country. In a BBC interview, the Labour leader admitted that his mettle had been tested by recent criticism of his leadership. A timetable for putting all patients' records online has been drawn up by the NHS. People could have access to their GP records by next year and to all their medical care information by 2017. Scientists at the European Space Agency are anxiously waiting for fresh information information before they can be sure that the space probe they landed on a comet has remained in place. Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are part of the project. The lander has already sent back pictures. Mission manager Fred Janssen says material should help us learn a lot more about our planet's own beginnings.
The mission is of enormous importance to ESA, also because the ambition of the mission, what we're trying to achieve, connect ourselves to the origin of the solar system, the planets, and the emergence of life on Earth. So it has been compared in the media with the lunar landing, and I think in terms of ambition, it definitely can.
The BBC's one-show Rickshaw Challenge arrives in Buckinghamshire today, raising money for children in need. The team of riders, with presenter Matt Baker, will be cycling through Buckingham, Winslow and Aylesbury. So far, they've raised over £600,000. In sport, the BBC has learnt that an inquiry for football's world governing body FIFA clears Qatar of corruption during its successful bid to host the 2022 World Cup, but it's understood that England will be criticised for its behaviour during its failed attempt to stage the 2018 competition. The weather, some bright or sunny intervals this morning, but strengthening winds and rain will spread from the west by mid-afternoon, a maximum temperature 14 degrees Celsius, and you can get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
Giza, 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 Giza.
Today on BBC Three Counties Radio.
From 9.
The JVS Show.
With the big phone in, the hottest topic of the day, and your consumer problems.
From 12.
Nick Coffer.
With the author of Be Stiff, the story of the legendary punk label Stiff Records.
From 3.
Roberto Peroni.
I'm here with a roundup of the day's news, the latest travel, and your stories.
From 7.
Mark Forrest.
I'll bring you the best bits from everything that's been happening on BBC Local Radio.
Today on BBC Three Counties Radio.
OK, well, it's, let me start that again. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Busy show this morning. Dodgy coppers, slippery landlords, and boffins getting all excited because they got a camera to stick to a comet. Woo! 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Boyley's here. Morning, Catherine.
Hello.
We got any texts or anything before we carry on? We didn't do any in the last hour. That's remiss of me.
They are mostly talking about the Shags, which is the group we played earlier on.
Should we play some more? I can play some more.
No, I think I can summarise it. Imagine taking 3 nice but not very musical people, giving them some instruments, not letting them hear music ever in their lives, and seeing what they come up with.
They come up with this.
There was a sports car on the road.
It actually makes you angry, Kelly, doesn't it? It gets you furious.
I think the introductions are usually quite strong.
Yeah.
I mean, comparatively.
Following it was like riding on a roller.
Oh, I just think it's wonderful. That's pure music. That music is so pure. It's untainted. It says in the sleeve notes, although they'd never heard music, their biggest influences were Herman's Hermits, Ricky Nelson, and the Monkees.
They just like the names, I guess.
They just like the. What are people saying on the text? I'm probably asking where they can buy the Shags from.
Yeah. Well,
you can get it for.
Keith in Luton suggests they might win the Eurovision Song Contest.
Could do.
Noreen in Leagrave, not a fan. Please stop playing them.
Okay.
And Maff in Hanslope. That was awful, especially when the bloke took over the singing.
There is no bloke involved in that band apart from their dad. It's all girls. It's all. They're like the precursor to the Spice Girls or Little Mix. It's just very, very, very powerful music. Let's see if we can get the Shags on one day. Should we try and get the Shags on?
Do they have a telephone?
That's possible. 08459 455 555. Slightly more serious things. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off. Follows a dispute between them and the owners of Newlands Park in Abbots Langley after the bill went up by a disproportionate amount, according to the residents. Well, as we heard earlier this week, it's not the only issue. Number of maintenance problems with plumbing and bases of static caravans. Caravans are twisted. There are talks of. We were told that some of the residents there have been intimidated by the owners. Well, the owners aren't doing anything. Three Rivers District Council aren't doing anything. So Catherine and I thought we'd go down and have a look. Kath got a guided tour of one of the worst affected vans.
Just looking at your van here, what's going on?
Well, actually, this in April,
front room decided to go down on one side, leaning over, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't know what's going on here. Come out, took the skirt off and had a look, and the base is cracked and broken, as well as 4 legs, okay? This leg was broken, and then it tipped over, so I came out, took the skirt off and had a look and think, better put some supports underneath. Anyway, it wasn't just there that it was broken.
Let's go a bit further along.
Yeah, this is actually here.
Oh, don't put your head under there.
I have to go under here. I have to go under there. That's why that jack's under there. I have to go under there to keep adjusting the house because it's twisting and turning, damaging the floors and the walls. You can see what it's doing. It's pushing off. It's pulled the corner off. I put some tape over there to keep the water out because it will rot the wood.
So what's this here? Is this your waste pipe?
That's my services, yes indeed.
And what's going on with that? Because I hear you're having trouble getting rid of your bathwater.
Oh yeah, well we haven't got that far yet.
Oh right, there's more.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
It's all cracked and broken there. Do you wish to come in? Remember, I'm a bachelor and live on my own. If you'd like to come in, I'm under redecorating.
Yeah, please do.
I'm under redecorating at the moment. I've redecorated everything, and as you can see, they're starting to pull apart. Yeah. My bedroom, the wallpaper and such
Coming
like
away
has
from
fallen.
the wall.
Yes, and the van window is running down. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the floor runs down.
Yeah.
Okay, my bath. Can't get rid of the water because it's all leaning over that way.
Oh wow.
I can't support it anymore. I keep going under there and putting blocks of wood on and it just won't have it. If you'd like to go, so I'm redecorating my kitchen as well. You can see the kitchen and the sink. All is leaning over on one side. You're walking downhill when you went there. And it's twisting the van, damaging. Yeah, that's all been. I'm in the process of redoing it bit by bit, but is it really worth it when you see it's terribly heartbreaking? You know, I've been at this from April, I've been on this. The owners aren't interested.
Well, how not interested are they? Have you spoken to them directly?
No, I've written in 3 letters to their supposed office and had absolutely no reply at all. Not a mention, nothing. And yet they come round after they collect the money every Saturday, come round and drive by. Don't stop.
Well, keep listening, because as we were talking to Paul, that gentleman there, the owners turned up. One of the owners turned up in a car, didn't he?
Yes.
Find out what happened in the next hour. Stay tuned for more. Well, listening to that is the Conservative MP for St Albans. It's Anne Main. Morning again, Anne.
Good morning.
You have kind of, by the way, all the residents there, even those who aren't Conservative, had wonderful things to say about you and the work that you're putting in. So well done there. You're familiar with this lack of response from the owners, aren't you?
Oh, I am. If you do happen to get hold of them, they put the phone down you, or they have a very aggressive phone response. And then
have you spoken to them at all?
Yes, I rang all of them. I thought, in fairness, because their numbers are up on the site, and the residents tell me that they'll only answer the phone once to you, and if they don't like what you're saying, they put the phone down anyway. Mr. Golby, after a while, just got very, very agitated when I was reading off the complaints. I said, people cannot get hold of you. They want to talk to you. They don't want to send a letter, wait a month, get no response, or get a response that just says pay your bills or you're being cut off. And eventually went, thank you very much, and shoved the phone down. Wow. So he's not an easy person to talk to. And the council sent letters that haven't been responded to for a month. Eventually they are responded to, and I spoke to the council, Mr. Earl Jackson. I said, well, there you are. That's how long it takes to get hold of the owners. And they said, as long as they can communicate with them, that's okay. No, I don't call. When you've got a threat of being cut off in a month, taking a month to respond to a letter, okay, but there we go. That's where we're at with them.
This is the water bill that the residents claim has gone up by 50%. They think it's not because of the extra usage of water, but because the pipes that are the owner's responsibility to fix are leaking. That bill's not being paid, and the residents have been told they've got 30 days to pay until they get cut off.
Yes, that's what they were told. And again, this is back to the site communication. Mr. Golby has a notice board. He puts notices on it, and threatening notices sometimes. Yeah. Nobody else can put anything else. I talked to Affinity yesterday because, as you know, it's a grey area with park homes. What happens is the owner pays the bill and then he gets the money off the residents. The residents are saying that the water's gone up from 12.5 units to nearly 18 because there's huge leaks. He just says pay the bill or else you're cut off. Although it is his bill, the residents obviously owe what they owe in terms of use, if he's wasted water, then he could be liable for a waste of water action. Affinity assured me yesterday, and I really want to make this clear because the residents don't have anywhere to put this up, they have assured me as vulnerable domestic users, they will not be cut off.
Great.
The argument is with Mr. Golby, he has no right telling them they will be cut off. And the Affinity company now, to be fair, they're doing everything they can. They're aware of the situation and the lack of communication. They're going to send in some engineers at the invitation of one of the residents. They're going to do flow tests on the site. They're going to warn Mr. Golby if the site has got leaks, which the residents say they still have, that he must comply and repair to their standards, and if not, they will take him to court on waste of water and do the repairs and bill him for that.
Well, good for them. Isn't it nice to hear... I tell you what's coming out of this story, Anne, is that some big companies, some big organisations that you wouldn't expect to be so helpful are actually, they really are on the side of... Some of these people are in their 90s. We met a 93-year-old woman on this site.
Yes, I expect it's the same one I met. I won't say her name because some of them are nervous about the Golbys knowing who they are making waves. I mean, these are the troublemakers, the 93-year-old, and, she was very unhappy when I met her. The other thing is I just find the council seems to be toothless. Spineless, I call them, but toothless. I did say, look, please try and get a roundtable discussion with Mr. Golby and one of the residents. This taking a month to respond to a letter.
Anne, sorry to interrupt. We've got a statement I'd love to read you in a second, but who's organising this roundtable discussion?
I rang them up and said, look, I'm sick of this lack of being able to get hold of Mr. Golby. Will you arrange a meeting? Because they can talk to him. And they said, yes, to be fair, they're happy to meet with me, but as far as I know, we still haven't got Mr. Golby to...
This is interesting. I'm going to read you a statement. We've had such trouble getting anyone from Three Rivers District Council to comment. We finally got a statement after a week, despite us wanting an interview. This is their... Try and be quiet till the end if you can, Anne, because I think you might have something to say on this. From Three Rivers District Council. Anne Main has thanked our staff for doing what they could to help resolve the concerns. She's advised us that she is arranging a round-table meeting with the aim of resolving the issues. The council's remit extends to the site licence only. We found no evidence for a breach of licence. The end.
Well, there we go. I thank them for... to be fair, they're probably sick to the back teeth of me and my staff because we keep ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing, and I think, we are testing their patience somewhat on this one. So I did thank them for, at least listening to us and trying to resolve some of these issues. To be fair, they did send around some test correspondence, but every answer we get is it's not in the site licensing agreement. Mr. Golby is within his rights to act like this. But the council actually does have powers under the new 2013 Act if they believe Mr. Golby is acting unreasonably, such as on the non-repair of the bases, to force him to do them. And they do accept he hasn't repaired the bases. They do accept the bases aren't wrong. So in that respect, I'm accusing them of actually abandoning the residents because you've been round that site.
Yeah.
It is a really sad scenario where they are watching their homes crumble because of Mr. Golby's lack of maintenance on the site. So I asked them, since Mr. Golby, don't have a lot of trouble getting hold of Mr. Golby, probably because they don't give him any grief like I do. I asked them to invite Mr. Golby to a meeting, and I will go to Three Rivers office. Now, if they think it's me organising it, I will write to Mr. Golby accordingly, but it sounds as if it's going to take me a while, and he'll probably do what he knows he can do, and is ignore me.
And listen, we've only got 30 seconds. While we've got you on another local story for you, we spoke about the 10,000 tonnes of wood yesterday at Apps Pond Lane. The site, people remember, there's a huge fire there that raged for a while and smouldered for months. The wood's not been removed. Navitas, the owners, have been given until yesterday by the Environment Agency to remove it. It was still there yesterday morning. I'm guessing it's still there today. And all the Environment Agency said was, well, if they don't move it, we might give them a bit longer. It's not good enough, is it?
It's not good enough, particularly with the history of the site, and they're discussing with the operator what steps they need to take after this 12th deadline. They've not managed to clear the site. I've not been updated. Well, as of yesterday, the wood was still there. I think it's disgraceful. I met with them before they were agreeing to this new operator taking over the site and said, how are we going to stop a repeat of this? And they said new procedures were in place. Well, all I can say is they're not doing any better with this group than they were with the last group. The residents are sick of having a dump on their doorstep, and a dangerous dump.
And thank you so much. Just to remind you, you have won lots of fans at Newlands Park. Well done, Anne Main, local Conservative MP for St Albans. Well, we saw Mr. Golby, who she mentioned there. We saw him when we went to the park. Find out what happens as he drove past us.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M1 southbound's looking very slow between junction 11 for Dunstable Road and 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road. That's after an accident on the northbound carriageway earlier on, making it very slow through there. In Bricketwood on the A405 North Orbital Road, it's queuing at the M25 junction 21A roundabout. And having a look at the speed sensors on the M25 anti-clockwise, it's looking very slow at the moment between junction 21 for the M1 and 16 for the M40. Elsewhere in Hatfield, the Great North Road has some roadworks at St Albans Road East. That's not causing any problems at the moment looking at the cameras. And in Bearton, Aylesbury Road has roadworks at Burcott Lane. Checking the speed sensors around there, it's not looking too bad at the moment. And in Aylesbury, the A41 Farridge Road's moving well around the Oxford Road roundabout and the Walston Street roundabout. There's no reports of any problems so far on the trains. Samantha Bruff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Just a reminder, guys, nobody wants a dangerous dump. 7:18. Thursday, the 13th of November. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are in danger of having their water cut off and are calling on Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. And the Children in Need Rickshaw Challenge will be in Buckinghamshire today.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Even though this week sees the latest international break for some of our teams,
Watford and MK Dons have had their games called off due to international call-ups.
we'll still bring you live commentaries in Three Counties Sport.
Cracking save from the goalkeeper, Joe Day.
On Saturday afternoon, you can hear Luton at home to Tranmere.
Alves goes in alone and finds the bottom corner. Really good finish.
Or Stevenage against Cheltenham.
It's buried down low. It's Dean Wells who's got it as well.
Three Counties Sport. Saturday from 2, here on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Three Rivers District Council, you can't just give us a statement. You need to come on and talk to us. You need to come on and talk to us and tell us why you're ignoring the act that says you do have the power to step in if you want to. Is it because, as has been suggested on the show, that the owners of this this park are travellers? Is that what it is? And you're scared of rocking the boat? Because if it's that, well then that's nonsense. That's a terrible reason not to get involved. Do come on. We'll give you a call after the show. We'll put what our main just said to you. I know you're listening anyway. We'll give you a call after the show, and I mean, if you don't want to come on, maybe we'll come down to you. I think there's a space outside, but we could park the broadcast van, isn't there? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Now, a former soldier and detective from Hertfordshire has avoided a jail sentence after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children, including hundreds of Category A images. Those are the ones that really are... they're the most indecent. Images of kids, images of animals. There's an 18-month-old baby being abused. Oh, horrible stuff. Well, Judge Michael Baker QC, we'll try and get that caller back if we can. We had a caller earlier on and we lost him. Judge Michael Baker QC said he thought hard about sending Simon Laws straight to prison, but decided he would suspend the sentence because of Law's background. So, he passed a 12-month jail sentence, suspended for 2 years. There's a supervision order. There's a curfew. He's had his computer confiscated. And he's been fined £600. Just let that sink in for a bit. You can give us a call if you want. Let me know your thoughts on that. Should his background be taken into consideration? 08459 455 555. I can speak to the NSPCC's Head of Strategy and Lead for Tackling Sexual Abuse. It's John Brown. John, what do you think? The facts you've just heard there, how do you react to that?
Yeah, good morning, Iain. We're actually quite concerned at the NSPCC that there's looks like there's an increase, actually, in the number of non-immediate custodial sentences, so including suspended sentences, but other non-custodial sentences as well, being given out for these sorts of offences where people have been downloading and creating and sharing some of the most vile child abuse imagery. And that we need to look at that into more detail, I think, really. But we're certainly concerned that overall it looks like there may be an increase in this sort of sentencing. It's wrong. It gives the wrong message.
Well, this fella's he's got to pay 600 quid. Some people will be thinking, well, it's almost worth the risk, isn't it, if that's all it's cost him?
Well, I think the important thing to remember, if we're serious about wanting to address this real problem, and it looks like it is an increasing problem of people accessing this vile child abuse imagery, it needs to be dealt with through deterrence, through treatment and through prevention. And, this sort of sentence doesn't actually address any of those three things. The judge has talked about him suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and from being a functioning alcoholic. Really, that is frankly an insult to soldiers who are suffering from PTSD and others, and it's an insult for people who have got alcohol problems. They are not excuses for people going on to access and view this sort of vile imagery.
You're right,
and yet clearly he has got a problem, and he needs treatment to address that as well, and he needs to be punished and receive a prison sentence to give a clear victim to victims and other potential offenders as well.
Should people's backgrounds ever be taken into consideration in cases like this, John, to the point where it can be the deciding factor as to whether they go to prison or not?
It's about weighing it up. It's about weighing up the message it gives to other offenders and potential offenders and people thinking that they might take the risk and view this sort of imagery. It's about the message it gives to victims, and it needs to be taken in the round. And of course, people's circumstances and backgrounds do need to be taken into account, but not to this extent, and not to this extent where it does give what appears to be quite a skewed sentence, I think, really. If you drill down to it, it's kind of the fundamental things for him are not about the fact that he's got an alcohol problem. It's the fact that he's got a problem with wanting to view child abuse imagery and
that's not going to go away, is it? Generally, in these people that do get their kicks from looking at this stuff, getting a slap on the wrist generally doesn't take away that urge, does it?
It's compulsive and it's addictive behaviour, and of course some of these individuals, mainly men, although not exclusively, will actually go on or have already gone on to commit contact offences against children as well. So that needs to be assessed, and that, the treatment needs to address that addiction and the risk that they pose. So I think that's a really important thing to remember. The other important point to make is, of course, these are not victimless crimes. Viewing this sort of vile imagery online is perpetuating this terrible trade in children being abused, and for every image, a child, of course, has been abused.
Is it? I heard a story last week, John, about that there was some kind of online trap thing was set up, and as a result of it, they got the addresses and the names of thousands of people who view these images around the world, and some countries were acting on it, but Britain said, well, we're not going to act on it because it would just overwhelm and flood the system. The prison system, the legal system couldn't cope with that kind of numbers. Is that part of the problem, that there are so many people doing this that prisons couldn't cope with it?
Well, the CEOP, the Child Exploitation Online Protection Centre, which is part of the National Crime Agency, their estimation, probably getting on for about 2 years ago now, but was that there are between 50 and 60,000 people, in the UK viewing child abuse imagery, and each of those individuals are viewing, hundreds, thousands, on some occasions millions of images. So it's a huge problem, and I've spoken before recently about the police being relatively quite significantly actually under-resourced in many areas to deal with this problem. So that is certainly a concern, and we do need to see a greater investment, I think, in law enforcement resources to deal with this mountain of imagery, to deal with the number of people who are of concern who are coming to their attention, and to deal with that promptly as well. But that needs to be combined with, kind of prevention and deterrence messages as well.
I thought on the back of Savile and Stuart Hall, on the back of this all this stuff that's going on with missing dossiers in Parliament, I thought we'd kind of learnt our lesson as to how serious this kind of crime is, but you hear things like this and maybe we haven't.
Well, we're making some progress. We definitely are. I think, the inquiry that's been launched, and obviously, there are problems there in terms of getting that off the ground and getting a chair in place and everything. And the work of the Home Office and other government departments and voluntary sector organisations like the NSPCC. Progress is being made, and I think we now know what needs to be done. It's now actually getting that momentum really moving forward, making sure that we've got sufficient resources in the right place for treatment for victims, because there's not enough of that around the country, and for a proper preventative approach to ensure that when people are thinking about committing these awful crimes, firstly, they know that they're going to be caught, and secondly, that where appropriate, help is available, and to steer them away, really, from some of these awful behaviours. So I think some progress is being made. We now know very clearly, government and others, and those responsible for developing these child protection policies and prevention measures, we know what needs to be done. But I think it's now bluntly down to will and resources and really strong leadership from the top to make sure that happens.
John, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. John Brown from the NSPCC. There will be some people listening who will think that the government are exactly the wrong kind of people to be leading this. There are some people who believe there is a conspiracy within the government. There is a collective of people who perhaps have been paedophiles working within the government. There's, Cyril Smith, anybody? You remember that guy? We all thought he was a lovable fat bloke and he was getting up to all kinds of things. And they talked about Theresa May and this inquiry that doesn't seem to be getting off the ground, and all of these leaked documents. There was a great interview on another radio station with someone who had read some of the documents in the 80s. And it had been given to him, this leaked thing that was given to
Leon Britton.
Thank you. I can never remember his name. I always want to say someone else's name. And he'd read some of them, and he contacted the Liberal Party as it was then and said, I've got these documents. Can we talk about them? The next day, it's an amazing interview, the next day Cyril Smith turned up on his doorstep and said, give me those effing documents. You can't have them. Bloke refused to give them. The next day, Special Branch turned up and threatened him with arrest. So there are some people who will think, and it's, do you know what, I do like a good laugh at conspiracy theories, and hey, we didn't land on the moon, and Prince Philip killed Princess, all of those things. This one doesn't seem that far-fetched, that there is potentially a government cover-up into all this kind of stuff. Someone's already tweeted me, I bet that ex-copper was a Freemason. People, when you see stories like this specific story about Simon Laws, ex-copper, all these horrific images, not going to prison, people will end up going, it all sounds a bit suspicious. It's all a bit of a club, isn't it?
Well, I think we've been robbed of our innocence, haven't we, in the last few years?
Yeah. 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M1 southbound is still looking slow between junction 11 for Dunstable Road and 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road after an accident on the northbound carriageway. In Bricketwood on the A405 North Orbital Road, it's queuing around the M25 junction 21A roundabout on the speed sensors. Having a look at the M25 anti-clockwise, looking very slow there between junction 21 for the M1 and 16 for the M40. Elsewhere, looking at the A1M on the speed sensors, and it's looking very heavy around junction 7 for Stevenage and on the approach there on the A602. And in Watford, Exchange Road's looking quite busy on the cameras around Upton Road. There's no reports of any problems so far on the trains though. Samantha Breath, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 7:30. I'm Simon Oxley. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are threatening legal action after their water bill went up by what they claim is a disproportionate amount. They want Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. And the Children in Need Rickshaw Challenge will be in Buckinghamshire today, cycling through Buckingham, Winslow and Aylesbury.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Football Association is expected to face criticism for its behaviour during its failed bid for the 2018 World Cup when the main findings of a report for football's world governing body are released today. It's also understood that no action will be taken against Qatar following an investigation into how the 2018 and 2022 World Cups were awarded. More from Richard Conway.
The BBC has learnt that Qatar, which won the right to stage the tournament in 2022 and has been the subject of several specific corruption claims, will be cleared, paving the way for the Gulf state to host the World Cup in 8 years' time. Meanwhile, it's understood England's doomed effort to secure the 2018 World Cup will be criticised in the light of its repeated attempts to curry favour with Jack Warner, an influential but now deposed FIFA vice president.
League Two side Burton have appointed former Chelsea striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank as manager. His first game in charge will be Monday night's trip to Wickham, followed by a home game with Luton. Former Luton striker David Oldfield will become Hasselbank's assistant after being released from his role at Milton Keynes Dons Academy. In tennis, Novak Djokovic beat Stan Wawrinka at the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena last night. Andy Murray faces Roger Federer this evening.
Obviously a very difficult match, it'll be an exciting match. I hope I can play well. We've had some very good matches over the years. Hopefully I can get through the group and keep going. If not, playing against Roger is a good way for me to finish the year as well. So there's a lot of positives for me going into that match. It's nice to go into Thursday still with an opportunity to go through.
And in rugby, England head coach Stuart Lancaster names his side later this morning for Saturday's match against South Africa. BBC Three Counties News and Sport. The next full bulletin is at 8.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, OK, so this copper that had some horrific images on his computer of children and all kinds of things happening didn't go to prison. Is there a conspiracy? When you hear stories like this, judge didn't send him to prison, he took his background into consideration, background being he'd got post-traumatic stress disorder from being in the army, serving in Northern Ireland and being a copper. Well, it does kind of make you think, well, maybe there is more going on at the top. Maybe there is some kind of conspiracy, some kind of protection. Andy has tweeted, and this isn't particularly helpful, allowing convicted paedophiles to roam the streets is a disgrace. Catch 'em, prosecute 'em, hang 'em!
Got some similar texts.
Yeah.
Maffin Hamslope, there's a simple deterrent. The sentence should be a facial tattoo, pedo across the bridge of your nose.
No.
Nick and Hitchin, the vile ex-copper that had those disgusting pictures on his laptop should be in solitary in a cell in the same establishment as other ex-pop stars are. Shame we don't have a facility similar to Alcatraz to put them in.
So it was interesting. The guy from the NSPCC was talking about helping them.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Some kind of treatment. I don't think you can turn it off. I think, and I've spoken to plenty of people about this on this show and another show, that it's kind of like it's a sexuality. Mm-hmm. It's like you are gay, you are straight, you are bisexual, you are paedophile. You can't
imagine someone dabbling in that.
No, exactly. You can't switch off being straight. You can't switch off being gay. It's probably really unlikely that for most there'll be exceptions, but for most people who are sexually aroused by children, that you can't switch that off. That is their, as I say, their chosen thing. Not chosen at all. That is their gender. So. Here's a sentence that I didn't think I'd say. Should we feel sorry for them? To a certain extent. Should we, if it's not their fault, if it is that you are born that way, let's assume, as many experts kind of believe, if you're born that way, just as you are born straight, you are born gay, should we feel sorry for them? 08459 455 555. I don't know. I put it out there as a ridiculous hypothesis, but you never know. There might be, if it's not their choice, if they're not going, right, today I am deciding to look at horrific images of young children. You know, if they're not making that choice, if it's not a choice to make, then I guess we have to have some sympathy for them.
And we've had enough experts come on this programme and tell us that you cannot rehabilitate. It's just a matter of avoidance.
Andy says, I think my suggestion is more helpful than letting him roam the same streets as our children. OK. 08459 455 555. Hey, tell us about Newlands, Catherine, where we went the other day, because some people might have just switched on.
Newlands Park, Bedman near Abbots Langley was where we went yesterday. We'd been called
What
there.
a delightful place, and what lovely, lovely people.
It was a real community atmosphere.
Yeah, it was nice.
People really look out for each other there. A number of them are pensioners, but there are younger people living there too. They're living in these static homes, these mobile homes, but they're sort of all bricked in, aren't they? but they're having loads of problems with just maintenance issues. So there's subsidence, so some of the bases are crumbling away. There's a man in particular, Paul, who we just heard from, the guy whose van is completely on the slide.
He can't run a bath because the water goes the other way, it doesn't go towards the drain.
He's having to crawl underneath his van every day to adjust the jack. I mean, it's just awful. I didn't want to put my face anywhere near it, never mind stick my head under it. Because it's swinging one way.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing's happening. There are also problems with just general maintenance. Apparently, a tree went through someone's window at one point.
We were there. We went there, and by coincidence, as we were talking to a gentleman, one of the owners turned up in a car. We'll find out what happened in a bit. But Mick's in Newlands. Morning, Mick.
Good morning, Ian. Thank you for your show and your help.
You're very welcome. It was nice to meet you the other day. You heard Anne Main, I'm assuming, earlier on. She's really is on your side, isn't she? That's got to give you some comfort.
Well, I mean, without her staff and yourselves, I don't think we would get anywhere. But the point about the council is I wonder whether, under the Human Rights Act, we could have some sort of judicial review to get them to actually do something, because they're failing to complete the service.
Let's just clarify that, because your landlords are not addressing the problems, and in fact, on a number of occasions they've got quite aggressive about it, or just completely ignored you about it. And the council does have a possibility within law to go in there and intervene. They've decided not to. Anne Main suggests it's because the landlords are travellers and they don't want to interfere.
Well, that is a possibility, but I think the main reason is that they keep on saying that they haven't got the staff or the cash to do this. Now, they can recover any expenses under the new Act, and they do have the powers to do it, but they're backing off because they are discretionary.
But they have been down there to have a look as well, haven't they? They sent someone from the Environmental Department.
Yes, she came down, and the partners admitted liability for repairing the bases, but nothing's been done since April.
We have been... Go on, Mick, sorry.
Two of the residents have written individually to each of the partners and have never had any reply from them.
OK, well, listen, we've had a rubbish statement from Three Rivers that's not good enough. We're going to give them a call today, and let's put our cards on the table. If they won't come on the show, we're going to go to them. We're going to go to them, and we'll do the show outside their office.
Because one of the most alarming problems is this twisted gas pipe underneath Paul's van, isn't it? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, Paul phoned me the other day. He was very worried because his gas boiler was twisted on the wall. Now, what we're worried about is if it explodes, it could take out the vans either side, and some of the other residents on the site could be quite badly injured or in fact killed. So I really do think that if they don't do anything, that I will consider taking them to court and suing them. So if there's anybody on that will give us a hand with any legal advice, I'll be very grateful for it.
Well, as I say, we were there. One of the owners turned up. We tried to speak to them, find out what happened a bit later on. Mick, it's good to talk to you. Keep listening, because
the only thing about that, Ian, is it's one of the funniest things I have seen, and but I will give nothing else away.
So I'll come and give you a slap, Mick. And you've only got one working leg. I could catch you easy, fella.
It was a moment
you almost equal Jesse Owens' record, I would say.
No.
It was a moment we both sort of stood there looking at each other, didn't we, Mick? Because he disappeared off down the hill, and then I thought, when he disappeared out of sight, I thought, I better chase him.
I was very worried. I was very worried for his safety, I tell you.
Oh, you'd be worried for your safety, Michael, because you cheat me like that. I'll come and take your little... bless him, he's done his knee in, and he's got one of those things where you rest your knee on and you kind of wheel yourself along, so I could catch him quite easily.
He's no slouch on that thing.
He's not at all. Mick, nice to talk to you. There you go, Three Rivers. Come on the show and talk to us and talk to the residents. Otherwise, we're going to come and do the show from outside your office. I think we that's fair warning. I believe there's a good place we could park the truck and broadcast the show from. So come to us or we come to you. Simple as. 08459 455 555. Justin Dealey.
Good morning, boss. I have to say, I couldn't wait until 8 o'clock, so I've been into our computers. I have listened to that audio.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic. Fair play.
Yeah, fair play.
That's all I'm going to say.
Fair. Thank you very much, Justin. Coming from you, I genuinely take that as a big honour, so thank you very much. Now, Kim Kardashian's bum.
Yeah!
I think it's an horrific picture. It's on the front page of The Sun. It's kind of, they've covered it a little bit. Go to page 9. It kind of, the internet melted last night, just as much as I suspect some of her backside could melt. she's posed kind of naked with her back to us. She's got a huge backside. That's what she... Imagine being famous. So what are you famous for? Got a big bum. All right, nice one. She's greased it up. She's had a picture.
She's greased it up, but she has.
She has,
She looks
though.
like a hot dog.
Incredible picture.
You like it?
I do. I think it looks fantastic. I think, I think there is a beautiful lady on the front page of Paper magazine in America doing her thing.
Do you know what I think when I see that picture?
Go on.
I think there is a mum. I think there is a mum who's got a newborn baby, a new kiddie, and she's doing that. She don't need to do that. She's got loads of money. She's married to Kanye West. They're wealthy.
Yeah.
I think she's embarrassing herself, and I think she's...
She is an inspiration to women out there. I'll tell you why. Because if you can look that good after pregnancy, come on, you can't argue with that.
That is odd. That is really odd.
I don't think that's a good message to be sending to women. I think that makes women feel inferior. I don't look that good after having my baby. I think Kim should put this all behind her.
Right. I also think that once you've done that picture, you can't moan about press intrusion. I mean, she's mooned the world.
That camera is pretty intrusive. I've had a camera that's slightly more intrusive on me, but still. Justin, you've taken this. I have.
Yeah.
16 centimetres. Justin, you've taken this to the streets. Yes. What have the people had to say?
You wanted the lady's perspective,
I did, mate,
so
yes.
I went out with this image this morning just in case people hadn't seen it in the newspapers or on social media. Here is the lady's perspective. Take a listen.
Oh, the ladies in the house. The ladies.
The ladies' perspective with Iain Lee across beds, hearts and bucks.
The ladies.
Getting some reaction on the streets this morning, madam. The ladies' perspective. What do you think about that image? Your initial thoughts, please.
Not a lot. Horrible.
Why is it horrible?
Well, because she's ugly.
What's ugly about her body? I quite like that backside. What's ugly about the body?
Oh, I don't need to see it. If she's got big backside, cover it.
Shall I take that image out of your face?
Yeah.
Patricia.
Yes.
Classy name, classy outfit, classy lady. We're getting the ladies' perspective this morning. What do you think about this?
Not classy. Not in proportion. Very nice. Why not?
You don't think she's going a bit too far there when she is a mother?
No, it's only a bum. Definitely not, no. I think it looks fine. It's quite tasteful. You can't see anything, just a bit of bum. Bit big.
You think that's tasteful?
Well, it's not bad, is it?
It's not very pretty, let's put it that way.
Looks good to me.
Might do to you, you're of the male gender.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Last time I checked. Good morning, madam. What's your name?
My name is Rubina.
Rubina? What do you think about that? Just give us your initial thoughts.
No, nice. Because she's not wearing clothes.
Do you not think, though, she has got quite a nice backside?
No, I don't think so.
Thanks for your time, madam.
Thank you.
So Ribena didn't like it, but surprised that lady in the middle did.
Yeah, only one person, though, this morning, going out on the streets. I mean, yes, the men were saying, what are you talking about? Oh, Kim, oh, lovely, isn't that lovely? But the women, only one lady I spoke to this morning in 1 hour thought that was a decent picture.
I wonder how she gets jeans to fit. That's my initial practical thought.
Well,
I mean, what size are you going to wear?
She's got the money. She probably has somebody come round to her home and they have jeans to fit. Yeah, exactly.
A couple of tape measures.
One of those those things that they use to trundle along the road.
Here's the thing, isn't she... Have I got this the wrong way round? Have I got this back to front? Thank you, guys. Don't be cheeky. That's what the cameraman said to her. Have I got this the wrong way round? Right. Is she not just indulging in what Catherine was reminding me of a great British tradition, the moon? When was the last time, you went to a football match, or you drove up the M1, and someone, a van full of lads, someone knocked on the window, you looked, and they turned round and exposed their backside? When was the last time that happened?
OK, let's get this absolutely clear right now. If you're going to a football match, do not moon, because you're probably going to be banned for 3 years, so don't do it there.
Britain's lost its sense of humour.
Well, it did a while ago, yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, in a petrol station.
What? You did?
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
No, I did.
You thought about it, but you wouldn't have done it, Justin.
No, I did.
No, you wouldn't have done it as a BBC employee. You wouldn't have done that.
Your friend did it?
Yes, my friend did it.
You saw someone do it?
Yes.
Your friend Justin did it?
Yes.
And what was the reaction when your friend Justin did it, Justin?
Well, people laughed. People laugh at a good moon. If it is, and let me go back to a fact here. I did, in fact, not fiction. This was to a person that I knew. I wouldn't do it to a randomer.
Your friend Justin did it to a person that he knew?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Justin. I think we have just saved his career. But when was the last time you went up the M1 and someone mooned you? Don't happen. When was the last time you've seen a moon, dear listener? Full moon, 08459 455 555. I'll do one to the girls whilst we get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 towards London, it's very slow between junction 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road and 9 for Redbourne. It's after an accident there on the opposite carriageway over an hour ago. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's very slow between junction 21 for the M1 and 16 for the M40. And having a look around Watford on speed sensors, Exchange Road is looking very busy around Upton Road. In Hazelmere on the A404 Amersham Road, there's some temporary lights in place there at Park Lane, not causing any delays at the moment, but that could get busy as we get further into the morning rush. And around Roxton on the A1 Great North Road by the Black Cat roundabout, there is roadworks going on there. That is likely to start getting very, very busy soon, but it's moving fine at the moment looking at the speed sensors. On the trains, London Midland have possible 15-minute delays between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston because of a signalling problem that's also affecting Virgin trains. Samantha Breath, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Samantha. Andy, you're making some really good points on Twitter. You're making some not so good ones as well. Call in, because it's a little unfair on the other listeners, me having a one-sided debate. His last tweet that I'll read is, assume you're more concerned with paedophile civil liberties than those of an innocent 10-year-old girl. No, I'm not, Andy, but your assumption that paedophiles are good, you know, if they're on the street. Call in, let's discuss it. It's not fair to have a one-sided Twitter chat with one person. Right, 7:47. It is Thursday, the 13th of November. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are threatening legal action after their water bill went up by what they claim is a disproportionate amount. And the Children in Need Rickshaw Challenge will be in Buckinghamshire today. Is your name Richard Shaw? If it is, then keep an eye out from the stars of BBC One's The One Show.
Beds, hearts and bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks very much. It's 10 degrees across many of the three counties, many spots across the three counties right now. So certainly not a cold start, a mild one. We won't get much higher than that because we don't have a lot of sunshine in the forecast for today. It's quite cloudy just now and generally staying dry with increasing amounts of cloud as we go through the day today. By the end of the day, we'll be talking about some light and patchy rain coming in for this evening's commute. It is pretty light and patchy, as I say, but it's certainly something to be aware of. Top temperature of 12, possibly 13 Celsius before that. Tomorrow morning we'll start with a lot of heavy rain there across Beds, Herts and Bucks, and it could affect the morning commute. We could have some hail and some thunder mixed in. It comes in and moves away quite quickly, so it rattles through, but a good couple of 3 hours worth as we go through tomorrow morning's rush hour. And then it'll start to brighten up as we go through the afternoon. The weekend looks pretty dry and settled, varying amounts of cloud around, and temperatures typically around the 12 Celsius mark.
Every weekday from 3.
Good afternoon, welcome to the show.
Local people.
What's your story?
Seems there's a law for them and then there's one for the press, and I disagree with what they're saying.
Local views.
In some cases, sort of 40% loss in value on their properties.
Has Kenny Luton got it right?
There is a responsibility when you're paid from the public purse.
Local life.
Do you want to know how much my carer's allowance goes up by every April when the tax year changes? £2.
Roberto Peroni.
And is it fair to target people on benefits?
Weekdays from 3. BBC Three Counties Radio.
Welcome to the mysterious world of space. A world where dreams can come true. And where probes can now land on comets! Yeah, a comet that was been worked on for ages landed, had a thing landed on it. Hang on a second, let me rephrase that.
Took 10 years for that probe to get to that comet.
10
right?
years. I know exactly. People think I'm making fun of what is actually a very important, serious scientific event. Open University and Astrium scientists made history by landing a probe on a comet after a 10-year journey across the solar system. Well, Dr. Simon Green is a senior lecturer in planetary sciences at the Open University. Were you excited yesterday, Simon? Simon?
I think that's an understatement. Not only excited, but very nervous, because this is an incredibly difficult manoeuvre to pull off.
Tell me why it's so special, why it's so exciting.
It's because this is the first time ever that there's been a landing on a comet. Before, we just had very quick flybys and had a little snapshot of view of a comet. Imagine trying to understand a town by driving at 70 miles an hour around the bypass. You know, you really need to go into it and get out and walk around. And so landing on the comet, giving us a first chance to really understand what goes on in these bodies that tell us about the beginning of the solar system and potentially contain the water and organic molecules that may have preempted life on Earth.
So this could tell us give us some insight into how our Earth was created.
Well, yes, comets are one kind of what's called planetesimals, the building blocks of planets. Comets are made of ice and dust and probably formed in the outer part of the solar system, and they made up the icy cores of the giant planets like Jupiter. Rocky bodies like asteroids represent the building blocks of something like the Earth. But comets are important because these objects got mixed up in the early solar system, and many of them will have hit the Earth early on.
It seems incredible, and I don't understand how this works, that it can take 10 years for this probe to reach this comet, and they land it on it. That seems... I can't get my head around that.
Yeah, it is astonishing. The total journey was about 4 billion miles.
Flippin' heck!
And it went round the solar system several times, and it basically had to catch up with the comet, which is in a very different orbit from the Earth.
Yeah.
Once you come alongside, even though this thing is travelling at 20 miles, 30 miles a second, you can... imagine it's like two cars driving along side by side on the motorway. Your relative speed seems very, very small, but you're both travelling very fast. And, of course, the trick is to be able to match those speeds perfectly so you can arrive and then manoeuvre around the comet. What is astonishing is when we got there and you saw that incredible object with its complex shape, extremely low gravity, so the space probe, which weighs 100 kilograms, has an effective weight on the comet of about a gram, and getting that to fall down, just releasing it and letting it fall into the gravity field, you can get it to land where you want it to. It's astonishing. But, of course, I don't know if people know that it didn't actually land once. It probably landed 3 times. It was very unclear about what was happening after the landing. There's some anomalies in the data. We didn't see pictures taken up from the landing site itself, and it appears that the lander bounced off the surface and came back up again for about 2 hours. So it's so incredibly low gravity that just a bounce will last 2 hours. It appears that it landed again.
And it's hooked on.
Again.
It's got these kind of space hooks. It's hooked on now.
Well, it's not clear whether it is or not. It's what happens is, of course, all you have to go on is the telemetry, the radio signals from the spacecraft, and it was pre-programmed because it takes half an hour for the signals to get back, and those signals telling there were commands to say fire the harpoons when it touched down. Those commands appear to have been operated, and so you believe that the harpoons have fired, and then the cables that are attaching them are winched in to hold the spacecraft down. But clearly, if the harpoons haven't stuck in the ground or haven't fired, those commands have still been sent, and it still appears they've happened. And so that's where it's unclear. Until you got those images from the ground to see that, yes, that's where we are, nobody was really quite sure. And when the images came back, there were many of them that were stripy or black because the spacecraft was actually still moving during this bounce.
Yeah.
And, of course, we won't know now because the signals are transmitted via the orbiting spacecraft, and the orbiting spacecraft is now on the other side of the comet. So we'll have to wait till later today before we find out whether they've remade contact and then see exactly what's happened.
Wow. Very exciting. Simon, thank you very much for that. Hey, Simon, while I've got you on, can I ask you a question? That I was listening to something on Radio 4 the other day. It was a documentary about the moon. And I'd never heard this theory, because no one knows what the moon is, that the moon might have been created, that it might actually be from Earth, that something might have hit the Earth, and that it kind of bounced off, and that became the moon.
Right. This has been the prevailing theory, in fact, for quite a long time now. And it's based on the fact that if you look at the detailed composition of the rocks of the moon, they're incredibly like the rocks on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
And it's believed that just in the same way that comets were hitting the Earth very early on, that these partially formed planets were floating around and potentially could hit each other. And it seems like a body about the size of Mars hit a glancing blow on the Earth and disrupted a lot of the Earth. Parts of the crust, or the initially forming crust of the Earth, were thrown off and then reaggregated again in orbit around, and that's what formed the Moon, which is why the Moon probably has a very small, if at all, an iron core like the Earth.
Wow.
Because that material had already moved towards the centre of the Earth and therefore wasn't lost during the collision. So yes, that is the prevailing theory, although there are lots of details which are quite tricky, and getting it quite right is not certain yet. So, of course, it might be as more data and more information, if we return to the Moon, comes along, that theory will be disproved and something else will take its place. But at the moment, that's our best guess.
Fascinating. I want to go to one of Simon's lectures. Thank you, Simon. That was brilliant. Dr. Simon Green, Senior Lecturer in Planetary Sciences at the Open University. Melvin Bragg's on the line. Good morning, Melvin.
Good morning, Ian.
What would you like to say, sir?
Well, I haven't been on for a while because programmes have been very good recently. But the smoke...
You only come on when they're rubbish?
When I have a complaint to make.
OK, Melvin, what's your complaint today, then?
This morning you had that very interesting guy talking about the comet and the landing on the comet. And you proceeded to ruin it by playing inane music in the background.
Gosh.
What was that about? Why, as a broadcaster, what do you feel that brought to the interview?
I thought that some people may have found that subject a little bit dry, and that by bringing some actual space music into it, it kind of illustrated it and made it a bit more fun.
Fun? Well, that's obviously your opinion, but...
it made us feel like we were in space.
It did. That's one way of looking at it. But you can't concentrate on what the guy's talking about when the music's gone. It's as bad as Danny Baker on a Saturday morning on Radio 5.
Oh, gosh, as bad as Danny Baker. Well, Melvin...
Everybody that comes on, so Melvin, there's music in the background.
Well, it's awful when people do that, isn't it?
It is.
So you'd like us to stop, would you?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Very, very amusing.
You're such a sweet thing, but you can be so mean.
I've got no idea what he's talking about.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 towards London, it's still very slow between junction 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road and 9 for Redbourne. In Markyate on the A5 southbound, it's looking slow on the speed sensors at Hollybush Lane for people diverting away from traffic on the A1. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's very slow between junction 21 for the M1 and 16 for the M40. And having a look at the speed sensors in Chiswell Green, the A405 North Orbital Road is looking very slow around the Shell roundabout at the moment. In North Watford on the A41, it's very slow at the Dome roundabout, and the M40 northbound's looking slow at the moment as well between the Denham roundabout towards the M25. On the trains, London Midland have 15-minute delays between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston because of a signalling problem that's also affecting Virgin trains as well. Samantha Bruff, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy's arguing with me on Twitter. Andy, I'm trying to do a radio show, mate. Call in. He says, I won't take up your kind offer to call in. There's no debate to have on this. You'll only look bad trying to counter my opinion. Yeah, good argument, Andy. Good argument.
Local and vocal across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8 o'clock. I'm Simon Oxley. The headlines: criticism as policeman from Hertfordshire escapes jail. Mobile home residents urge council to step in. And children in need cyclists heading for Buckinghamshire.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Hertfordshire has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Simon Laws from Berkhamsted, who was a detective constable, pleaded guilty to 15 charges and received a suspension suspended 12-month sentence. John Brown is from the NSPCC.
The judge has talked about him suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and from being a functioning alcoholic. Really, that is frankly an insult to soldiers who are suffering from PTSD and others, and it's an insult for people who have got alcohol problems. They are not excuses for people going on to access and view this sort of vile imagery.
Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are threatening legal action after their water bill went up by what they claim is a disproportionate amount. It follows a dispute between them and the owners of Newlands Park near Abbots Langley. They want Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlords. St Albans MP Anne Main agrees.
The council actually does have powers under the new 2013 Act if they believe Mr Golby is acting unreasonably, such as on the non-repair of the bases, to force him to do them. And they do accept he hasn't repaired the bases. They do accept the bases are wrong. So in that respect, I'm accusing them of actually abandoning the residents.
The Labour leader Ed Miliband will say in a speech this morning that he is driven to become Prime Minister by a desire to change the country. In a BBC interview, the Labour leader admitted that his mettle had been tested by recent criticism of his leadership. A timetable for putting all patients' records online has been drawn up by the NHS. People could have access to their GP records by next year and to all their medical care information by 2017. Scientists at the European Space Agency are facing an anxious wait to see whether the probe they landed on a comet 300 million miles from Earth has stayed in position. Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are part of the project. Dr Matt Taylor is the lead scientist.
We have to look at the parameters to see how secure it actually is, if it has come to rest, whether the harpoons were fired, whether we need to fire them again, and what the implications of firing them would be. So this is all in the game now. This is all part of the analysis and what makes science and space travel so exciting.
The BBC's one-show rickshaw challenge arrives in Buckinghamshire today, raising money for children in need. The team of riders, with presenter Matt Baker, will be cycling through Buckingham, Winslow and Aylesbury. So far, they've raised over £600,000. In sport, League Two side Burton have appointed former Chelsea striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank as manager. His first game in charge will be Monday night's trip to Wickham, followed by a home game with Luton. Former Luton striker David Oldfield will become Hasselbank's assistant after being released from his role at Milton Keynes Dons Academy. The weather, some bright or sunny intervals this morning, but strengthening winds and rain will spread from the west by mid-afternoon. A maximum temperature today 14 degrees Celsius. And you can get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties.
Today on BBC Three Counties Radio.
From 9.
The JVS Show.
With the big phone-in, the hottest topic of the day and your consumer problems. From 12.
Nick Coffer.
With the author of Be Stiff, the story of the legendary punk label Stiff Records.
From 3.
Roberto Peroni.
I'm here with a roundup of the day's news, the latest travel and your stories.
From 7.
Mark Forrest.
I'll bring you the best bits from everything that's been happening on BBC Local Radio.
All right, Mark, calm down.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
You harvester. Harvester of talent. Ever been to a harvester before? I fancy I fancy a harvester.
Yeah.
The salad trough. What do they call it? The salad pit.
Salad bar. I don't think they call it the trough.
The salad bar. And boy, do you know when you go to the salad bar, what those they have screens, aren't they? Plastic screens across the top.
Yeah.
They're called sneeze guards. What a horrific name for anything that goes near food. A sneeze guard.
I want one of those.
Yeah, I can make you
Just
one.
for the office.
Yeah. Busy show this morning. Catherine, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the decision not to jail a former policeman who was found with images of
horrible stuff. You can
child abuse
imagine.
images,
Yeah,
and they're the some of them were category A's, which are the most serious kind. So that decision, his background was taken into account. Do you think that's fair?
There's an interesting comment on Facebook. Someone says, well, his background surely makes it worse. The fact that he was a copper. Anne-Marie says that. 08459 455 555. Also, this Newlands Park, this mobile home park. We went there, Catherine and I, the other day. We saw one of the owners. Find out what happened when we approached the owner.
Well, you say we. It was you at high speed.
You had high heels on.
Yeah. Well, I watched you go and thought, fair play, he's running after... Oh, hang on a minute, maybe I should follow. Yeah. I don't know why.
Thanks for the backup, guys. And anything else you want to as well. Kim Kardashian's backside, if you want to talk about that. 08459 455 555.
We can also talk...
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
About Monty Python.
Oh, yes, well remembered.
Because every once in a while we get a guest on who's so interesting we end up not talking about the thing we were supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
And that happened with Roger Grafe, who's a documentary maker.
He came on to talk about 24 Hours in Police Custody.
Because he'd made a very famous police documentary in the past, and then we got talking about what he's working on at the moment.
Yeah. He's working on a new Python documentary that screens tonight, and he's going to come on.
Yep.
Half 8 is he coming on?
Half 8, yeah.
Lovely. Carpet Martin says on Twitter, I couldn't care about this Meteor stuff. When they managed to land a probe on Kim's posterior, get someone to page me. Tying the two stories very neatly.
That's no challenge, is it?
I'd throw something now, it'd probably land on her bum. 08459 455 555. On to slightly more serious things. A Hertfordshire man has avoided a jail sentence despite being caught with nearly 2,500 child abuse images and films. The Category A stuff on there, the worst stuff. There's an 18-month old baby being abused. There's stuff with animals. It's horrible, horrible stuff. Simon Laws is the gentleman's name. He's from Berkhamsted. He served in the army. He's also a former Metropolitan Police detective. Guess what's going to happen? He's got a suspended sentence. They've confiscated his computer and he's got to pay £600. I'm kind of thinking if that's your thing, you'll be going, well, if that's all you get, it's almost worth the risk, isn't it? Judge Michael Baker QC said he'd thought hard about sending Mr. Laws straight to prison, but decided he would suspend the sentence because of Laws' background. If anyone can explain that to me, do we have to take people's backgrounds into consideration with something like this? 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Marilyn Hawes is the founder and chief exec of Hertfordshire-based Enough Abuse UK. Marilyn, he's had his computers taken off him, he's been fined £600 and he's not going to prison. What's your reaction to that?
I was absolutely horrified. This is like, it just smacks of establishment looking after itself again, doesn't it? And I'm going to explain what Category A is, so if you're driving the car or eating your cornflakes, you might want to stop right now.
Just explain it, but just obviously bear in mind we have got young ears listening, so just bear your language.
I know that. It is torture. Child torture and horrible things with animals, as you said. Now, this is a former officer. If he's got an unfortunate past, even more reason why he should be in a secure environment going through some offender management program. You know, this is, if you took the attitude of the Toronto police regarding Adam Brooks only last week or earlier this week, whenever it was, they treat this very, very seriously. In our country at the moment, we've got saying, we're going to let about 30,000 people walk who have looked at images. If you're looking at child abuse images, I'm sorry, the reality is you are looking at a crime scene. You're not looking at it for fun or thinking it's not causing any harm. We are going to create a whole army of people that are completely dysfunctional in about 10 years' time if people are going to keep looking at this stuff and we're letting them walk. I have to say, I, from Enough Abuse, will be appealing against this because a former member of police in the Met should have... You've got to make examples of these people, I'm sorry, or people will do, as you say, think, well, it's worth the risk then, isn't it? You've got to make, he was in a position of trust, a detective. I mean, they have to make this point. This is a classless, cultureless crime. It is across the UK. It is rife. We all know someone who's doing this. They don't walk around with a beacon on their head, and when they get caught, they should be absolutely appropriately punished. And I think this is unduly lenient. I think the judge could have thought a little bit harder about it myself, but I will be taking it up with the Attorney General because I think this sets a shocking example, and it's giving out the wrong messages.
You're furious, aren't you?
I'm fuming. If you saw the harm that this sort of stuff does, the harm of being involved in some way, the wrong end of online abuse, is as bad as those suffering it. I deal with the people that have been victims of online abuse, victims of images. Some of the children out there now who are being caught with stuff on YouTube, they inappropriately did something on their webcams. This is why our child-teenage suicide rate is increasing, because they don't know how to stop it. The clue is it's the World Wide Web. It is there forever.
Marilyn, would you stay on the line for a second? I'll come back to you in a minute. I'm just keen to get your thoughts on our next guest. It's sentencing expert Lyndon Harris. Morning, Lyndon. You disagree with this. You think that the judge made the right decision, don't you?
I do. I think what is needed in these sorts of cases is an assessment of what is the best decision for everybody. for the community, ensuring that people are kept safe, for the individual involved, in this case the former police officer. And we've got to look at...
What about the victims?
Of course the victims. I mean, that's involved in looking at protecting the public, both the victims, future victims, and the individual victims in this case. I think what we need to look at is look at how the judge approached the case. He applied the guidelines. 12 months is what the guideline says. There's mitigation here. Certainly the PTSD, his background...
Post-traumatic stress disorder, being an alcoholic, being in the army, being an ex-copper, doesn't make you a paedophile, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I would say that his background, years of public service, I struggle to see how somebody can't see that as mitigation. Now, I accept...
Jimmy Savile did a lot of good work, didn't he?
He did.
He did raise a lot of money for charity, entertain millions of people. I mean, surely you can't taking someone's background, the amount, weighing up how much good they've done against how much bad they've done, doesn't really work like that, does it?
No, but the Jimmy Savile case example is a very poor example, if you don't mind me saying, because Jimmy Savile used his charitable work in order to...
so because this guy wasn't doing stuff for charity, that makes it different. Okay.
Well, no, that's plainly not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the fact that somebody has got years of public service is relevant.
Why? Why is it relevant that he's watched... why should that lessen the punishment for someone who's got video footage of an 18-month-old baby being sexually abused? Why should that have any correlation?
Because in sentencing, the judge has to weigh up all of the factors, and that's involved...
But you explain the correlation to me between him being in the police and him having footage of an 18-month-old baby being abused. Why should that have an effect?
It has an effect because it's part of a factual background. If someone has got years and years of public service, serving in the army, serving this country, serving as a police officer, doing good work, then...
They can get away with what they want.
No, absolutely. That's plainly not what I'm saying.
Well, Lyndon, you keep saying plainly not what you're saying, but it isn't plain to me. It's very confusing. I don't understand why someone who's been in the army and if someone who's been a police officer should not be punished severely in the same way that anyone else would for having Category A child pornography on their computer.
Yes, there's no doubt that these are serious offences. These are serious images, and what needs to happen is his offending needs to stop.
He's had his computer taken off him. He's been fined £600. It's not really...
And he's subject to a suspended sentence. And the best way... what I'm inferring from the judge's sentence is he's decided that the best way to stop this offending is by a suspended sentence rather than an immediate sentence, because if, following the guidelines, which are set by the Independent Sentencing Council, so there's no sort of collusion here or anything else, the guidelines say 12 months. If he goes inside for 12 months, he serves 6 months at the absolute most. 6 months is no time to start any alcohol treatment or any sex offender program.
Is he going to be getting treatment for his sexual proclivities?
Well, I mean, I don't know any more than you do, based in the news reports.
So he might not be.
He might not be. It's not in the news reports, but you would have thought so. I would have
thought you would have gone to prison. Lyndon, stay there. Marilyn Hawes from Enough Abuse UK. Marilyn, I'd love to get your reaction to what Lyndon's saying.
I have never heard such a load of nonsense. I would love him to say, ask me right now, how much do you deal with the people of victims of this crime on a daily basis? I ask you that now. Please answer me.
Well, I don't. But I
no, you don't.
Marilyn, you've asked him a question. Let him answer.
Right, then let it roll.
Marilyn, let him respond. Go on, Lyndon.
But I don't see how that's relevant. Really, because what's important here is to take some of the emotion away and look at the facts of the case and look what's appropriate and look what's appropriate. How to best deal with the situation.
Marilyn, Lyndon thinks because he's served in the army, he's served in the police force, he's given years of his life to public service, that it should be taken into account and perhaps he should be treated slightly differently.
I have never heard so much such nonsense, and it's not surprising we have an issue in this country. If you said, please, Lyndon, come and spend a day in my office and listen to the harrowing things that are going on with children in this country, and with an attitude like that, I'm not surprised that we have the tsunami mess that we've got. Let me invite you to look and read. Go into a police office station and look at those images, and you might have your eyes wide open. I've never heard such a load of PC rubbish in my life. And it's not surprising we've got an issue.
Marilyn, let me ask you a question. If you have two identical cases, in one of viewing indecent images, say, of this nature, one defendant is an office worker, the other defendant has spent 25 years in the Marines, are they treated exactly the same?
Of course they should be treated exactly the same. It's absolute nonsense. Your past history is nonsense.
But what you're saying... Well, OK, how about if you were abused as a child? Is that relevant? I mean, all the reason...
What you need... Let me just explain. You need therapy. This man has walked free. Lyndon doesn't even know, having said what he said, he doesn't even know if this guy is going on an offender treatment. As you say, he could have gone for 12 months. He could have served 6 months of that time. And it is essential that people that do this, people like him, in order to stop the offending or try and reduce the offending, they need to go on a proper offender management treatment program. And with the cutbacks in this country, that isn't happening.
Marilyn, Lyndon, let me ask you. Let me just come in and ask a question, Lyndon. Let's take your idea as read that their public service should be taken into account. Supposing someone who's been caught with these Class A images, Category A images on their computer, has been someone who served the public community for 30 years, they've worked really hard at empowering people, they've worked as a primary school teacher for 30 years. Is there a difference there? Marilyn, let Lyndon come in. Should they be let off differently,
Lyndon?
Lyndon?
They shouldn't
Marilyn, I'm speaking to Lyndon. Lyndon.
I'm not saying anybody should be let off.
Oh, should their past as a teacher for 30 years, where they've helped kids grow and nourish and become adults, should that be taken into consideration?
I think it should be taken into consideration. I don't think it's as strong mitigation as, say, 30 years in the army or something like that. But my basic point
I don't understand why 30 years in the army would mean that you're sentenced for being a paedophile. For causing, the misery to thousands of people, whether it's through actually acting on it or, in inverted commas, just looking at the images. I don't understand why 30 years in the army should have any impact on that at all. I don't. Are you saying that if an MP gets found out to be a paedophile, we should treat them lightly? If a vicar gets found out as a paedophile, we should treat them differently? I don't understand the connection. Scoutmaster, I don't understand the connection.
But these examples, vicar, scoutmaster, etc., teacher, usually in these sorts of cases, the individual has used their position to further their offending. Somebody in the army, it's unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely that they've done that. And my basic point is that the judge has to take into account all of the facts, and that involves the background of the individual. Now, my point about asking how about if somebody was abused as a child, now taking Marilyn's approach, that would be completely irrelevant. Now, I think...
I didn't say that. I said there is therapy needed. You cannot undermine the power of trauma therapy. I did not say that. I deal with abused children. You don't even work with them. I deal with them every day of my life. And that is the whole point. With this attitude in society, you're causing a tsunami crisis.
But what you're suggesting is that you pick and choose what background information you take into account to support your view.
I'm not suggesting anything at all like that. I am saying the thing is child abuse. It's whichever way you look at it, whoever's done it. That is what it is. And by the way, can I just say, a paedophile is somebody who substantially actually abuses children under the age of 13. Hundreds and hundreds actually does it. Viewing them does not make you a paedophile. It makes you, looking at child abuse images, it makes you an online offender. You don't even understand the word of the meaning paedophile. It means actually having intimate...
I didn't say the word paedophile.
I beg your pardon?
I didn't say the word paedophile.
Well, you presented it. You don't even know the meaning of the word. Have a look it up. If you're going to give somebody a label, make sure you get that label right.
Lyndon, there will be people scratching their heads. And you did say earlier on, let's try and get the emotion out of it. It's hard to take the emotion out of it, isn't it? Because it's such an emotional thing. There will be people thinking, well, and I've still not quite got it. Maybe it's me being an idiot. I don't understand why serving in the army for 30 years would mean that we have to treat someone differently. Why that
I'm not saying that it allows you to, it allows the defendant to buy a more lenient sentence. All I'm saying is it's relevant background. If somebody has...
OK, it's relevant background, but then why should they get a different sentence to someone who hasn't served in the army?
Because it's relevant, to my mind, it's relevant...
What is the relevance? Tell me, this is what I'm missing. Try and explain to me what the relevance is.
Because it's part of their character. If somebody has done lots of charity work and it shows that they've made a positive contribution to society.
Back to Jimmy Savile. He raised.
No, but that's a very poor example.
No, Lyndon, it's not. It's an excellent example because he raised £50 million. So how many kiddies is he allowed to touch up for £50 million? But
no, that's not at all what I'm saying. Is it? The Jimmy Savile case is a very, very bad example of somebody using...
OK, I raised £10 million for charity. How many kiddies am I allowed to touch for that? What's the scale?
You're not allowed to commit any offences just because you've raised money for charity.
But I'm allowed to be viewed differently from someone who hasn't spent the last 30 years raising £10 million.
Yes, you are, because you've contributed to society.
For goodness sake, what a load of rubbish. Are you a parent?
Not irrelevant.
You're not a parent. Well, that's
completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant.
Listen to me. I am a mother of 3 sexually abused children. I have taught children. I deal with children who are abused. If you're not a parent, you don't even understand the emotion of being a parent. And when you find it may be your child on an abused image, you may find yourself feeling so very different. And the fact you don't say, you take the emotion out of it, that's half the problem in this country, that we don't have enough emotion. That is just my point. And if you are not a parent, you don't understand. Don't tell me and other people like me and other people who are being abused what it feels like.
Marilyn,
you need to stand a mile in some of these people's shoes and walk
Marilyn,
it.
I think that people can have opinions on this, whether they're a parent or not.
They can have opinions, but we are talking about the protection of children.
Yeah, but people who don't have kids, people who don't have kids can still be protective of children.
Well, then they need to look at it a bit more and work with the abused and see exactly what this crime does to them. Exactly what it does to them.
Interestingly, Marilyn, your website says that grooming is the preamble to sexual abuse, not viewing images.
Interesting, Lyndon. If you came on the courses, you would actually find that the grooming is part of those images as well.
Marilyn, let Lyndon make his point, and we'll bring this to an end in a second. Go on, Lyndon.
Well, viewing images isn't part of grooming if you look at the legal definition of it. So my point is, you can set these cases aside from cases where there is a very real need to protect the public, because in this case the judge would not have sentenced the individual to a suspended sentence if there was a risk of him progressing to contact offences. And so really what the police officer needs in this case is to deal with his alcoholism, to deal with the PTSD, hopefully to go on a sex offender treatment course, to rehabilitate him, to stop him offending, because that is the most effective way of protecting people, is stopping the offending, not locking people up for 6 months, letting them out and dumping them out on the street, no treatment, and he's back to viewing images again.
Lyndon, I've kept you both on longer than we said, so I'm going to let you both go. Thank you very much indeed. Last voice you heard there was sentencing expert Lyndon Harris, and we also heard from Marilyn Hawes, the founder and chief exec of Hertfordshire-based Enough Abuse UK. Your thoughts on that, please. 08459 455 555. The judge was right in this case of Simon Laws to take his history into account. He served in the army. He served in the police. He's given pretty much most of his life to serving us, to working for us, to making our country a better and safer place. So, it's right for that to be taken into consideration. We take Lyndon's point to the next stage. If I spend 30 years raising £10 million for charity, then perhaps I deserve a slightly more lenient sentence, I'm paraphrasing, than someone who hasn't spent 30 years raising £10 million for charity. Is your background relevant in these cases? 08459 455 555. Marie's in Bedford. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
What would you like to say?
Well, I would like to congratulate you for the way you answered and spoke about this. He has, as the years he served in the army and the years he served in the policeman, should have given him the right to find out who was abusing those children, where those pictures were coming from. So therefore, he had no thought about the images he was looking at. For a soldier and a policeman to see the image of an 18-month-old baby, even though he hasn't been there, to see that child being abused and then sit back and well, he must have been sort of looking for them.
Yes, so,
he could have done something. He should have been sentenced for every child that was on that photograph. He should have been given a year's sentence.
That's one of the things, Marie, isn't it? People don't quite understand, and I've forgotten in the past, and I've been reminded that this is not a victimless crime, that by looking at these films and these photos, it's perpetuating the industry of these photos and films being made, isn't it?
Yes, and that was wonderful. That was the point you made. We're not looking at cartoons. We're looking at real children being abused, and that's where, unfortunately, the other morning when if anybody does anything to a child, they get scared. And even if and they're frightened, they don't say anything. How can an 18-month-old baby speak? I mean, I can't understand that boy. All I'm saying to him, he doesn't know much about his law. He must be just starting out.
Well, do you know what?
I've got people in law.
I've looked at Lyndon Harris. He does know a lot about law. Look, Marie, I'm going to move on. He specialises in criminal law, particularly sentencing. He's a respected lawyer. You know, member of the bar, is that the phrase?
Yes.
I don't know. He's written books. If I've got the right Lyndon Harris, I don't think there'll be two in this profession. He's co-author of the Sexual Offences Handbook. He's regularly asked for comment on criminal law issues. He established the UK Criminal Law blog. And he became the general editor of Current Sentencing Practice and the Sentencing Referencer. He knows his stuff. He's not some kid that's just come out of law school trying to make a name for himself by saying something controversial. He means this.
Have a quick word with John, because he's furious.
John, you're right. John? Oh, John's gone. We'll speak to John a bit later on. It was an interesting debate. I wasn't expecting that. We weren't necessarily going to put those two together, but I'm glad we did, because it's an interesting attitude to have. And let's go with Lyndon for a second. When you come to the letter of the law, you do have to take emotion out of it, because it's the law. There are rules. It's written down in books what you can give to someone, what you can't give to someone.
And also, there'll be worse offenders in this.
Yeah. I am left scratching my head ever so slightly, though, about the... you take... if someone's raised a lot of money for charity, if someone's given years of their life to their country in the army or the police force, then it should be... that should be taken into account, and you should perhaps be treated slightly differently than someone who hasn't, than just Joe Bloggs who lives on a council block and has got a load of stuff on his computer.
It's like saying in all other parts of his life he's a nice bloke, so let's cut him some slack. We've got some text here.
Give us some text.
Steph in Luton says, I'm horrified that the bloke reckoned that working in public service should be taken into account. If anything, I feel they should get a greater sentence because they should know better. I'm shocked. And Karen says she's off to work. The interview's so emotional. We should not discriminate about what profession is OK to skip jail when you're found to have child abuse images on your PC. If we did this, we're creating careers where bona fide paedophiles can hide, knowing they won't be jailed.
It's really got me thinking. Thank you to both our guests. 08459 455 555. We'll speak to Jonathan in a minute, find out what's on his show. You'll also hear the audio of when Catherine and I were at a mobile home park, and one of the elusive owners turned up while we were interviewing somebody. Find out what happened. This is BBC Three Counties Radio. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The A1M southbound's very slow between Junction 8 for Stevenage and Junction 7 for the A602 because it's a lot of traffic on the roads this morning. The A5 southbound through Markgate's very slow as well at Hollybush Lane, and that's for people avoiding the M1 after it was slow there earlier on. Southbound around Junction 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road and 9 for Redbourne. That has now cleared, although it's still very busy on the A5. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's very slow between Junction 20 for Kings Langley and 16 for the M40. And on the M25 anti-clockwise as well, it's queuing between junction 26 Waltham Abbey and 25 for Enfield, all the way around to the M11 actually after an accident there earlier on. Having a look at the M14 northbound coming off the M25, it's very slow from the Denham roundabout towards the M25, and in Aylesbury the A41 Forage Road is slow around the Walton Street roundabout. On the trains, Virgin Trains have 15-minute delays between London Euston and Milton Keynes Central because of a signalling problem. That's also affecting London Midlands trains. Samantha Breath, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8:30. I'm Simon Oxley. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Hertfordshire has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children. Simon Laws from Berkhamsted, who was a detective constable, pleaded guilty to 15 charges and received a suspended 12-month sentence. Pensioners living on a mobile home site in Hertfordshire are threatening legal action after their water bill went up by what they claim is a disproportionate amount. They want Three Rivers District Council to take action against the landlord. And scientists at the European Space Agency are facing an anxious wait to see whether the probe they landed on a comet 300 million miles from Earth has stayed in position. Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are part of the project.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
League Two side Burton have appointed the former Chelsea striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank as their new manager. His first game in charge will be Monday night's trip to Wickham, followed by a home game with Luton. Former Luton striker David Oldfield will become Hasselbank's assistant after being released from his role at Milton Keynes Dons Academy. The BBC has learned that an inquiry for football's world governing body FIFA clears Qatar of corruption during its successful bid to host the 2022 World Cup. It's understood that England will be criticised for its behaviour during its failed attempt to stage the 2018 competition. Mark Palios is a former FA chief executive.
I think Qatar will be hosting the World Cup. It's pretty difficult to row back. You know, you'd have to see some kind of other investigation that brought out definitive evidence to justify FIFA taking such action. So I think Qatar will be running the World Cup, and we'll be seeing that in the winter.
In tennis, Novak Djokovic beat Stanislav Wawrinka at the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena last night. This evening, Andy Murray faces Roger Federer.
Obviously a very difficult match. You know, it'll be an exciting match. I hope I can play well. We've had some very good matches over the years. Hopefully I can get through the group and keep going. If not, playing against Roger is a good way for me to finish the year as well. So there's a lot of positives for me going into that match. It's nice to go into Thursday still with an opportunity to go through.
And in rugby, England head coach Stuart Lancaster names his side later this morning for Saturday's match against South Africa. BBC Three Counties News and Sports. The next full bulletin is at 9.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I always here's a name for you guys. I always love hearing a good Stephen Rhodes story.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
When the cars were all bricked in the car park, apart from Stevens, because he'd gone home.
And he was the one that upset the people who did the bricking.
Yes.
Good for him.
It's
well done. Thank you for your patience. You're sounding croaky again. The cold has rose up to the nose yesterday. It's back down to the chest.
Yes, I'm battling on in a manly way, you know.
Are you saying that I didn't when I took time off? You're saying that I'm
perhaps you were more ill than me.
I was. Significantly.
Yes. Well, you couldn't speak, could you? I mean, as you've heard, I've just got a lovely tone.
You sound butch for the first time.
I'm sounding like Terry Wogan.
I got an email from Terry Wogan the other day.
So did I.
Did you get an email from Terry Wogan?
All right.
Oh, she's pretending she's on the phone to someone doing work. There is a chance he may have emailed everybody. I still replied asking if you had to. Did you get an email from Terry Wogan the other day?
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Kelly, did you get an email from Terry Wogan the other day?
From what? Say that again.
OK. So it turns out that everybody got emails from Terry Wogan.
Yeah, everyone did.
Bum. What's on your show this morning?
Coming up on the big phone in today, do you see a Prime Minister when you look at Ed Miliband? Ed Miliband absolutely sees a Prime Minister when he looks in the mirror in the morning, apparently. Yeah. In an interview with BBC political editor Nick Robinson, the Labour leader admitted his mettle had been tested by reports that some Labour figures thought he should step down. But he denied his leadership was a problem and said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Yeah, that's right.
He'll address directly his opponents in a speech this morning and will say that he will not be distracted from his fight to change the country. Well, from 9 this morning, I'm interested to get your reaction to this today. Do you see a Prime Minister when you look at Ed Miliband? He says he absolutely is Prime Minister material.
Yeah.
And when he looks in the mirror and says, "Morning, Ed," he sees a Prime Minister staring back at him. Do you see the same thing? From 9 this morning, I'd love your views. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A few weeks ago, well, quite a while ago, wasn't it? Maybe almost a couple of months ago, wasn't it? When
You're right.
Miss Jones. You don't get a Rigsby on radio very often, do you?
It's when the first episode of 24 Hours in Police Custody was about.
Thank you for stepping in and speaking for me, Catherine. Well, we got to speak to a very interesting gentleman who'd made a series of documentaries about the police force in the 80s. Mr. Roger Grafe. And during the conversation, it kind of came out that he'd filmed The Secret Policeman's Ball, he'd worked with various Pythons, and he'd been filming the recent Python shows at the O2. You didn't go and see those shows, did you?
No.
You don't like Monty Python?
I love Monty Python. What are you talking about?
Then why didn't you go and see the shows?
Because I'm not rich. I'll wait for the DVD.
Well, you can watch the documentary this evening because it's on. Roger Grafe has very kindly come back on. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning, Ian.
We said we'd get you back, and we remembered, and we have got you back. You just remind people your connection with Monty Python.
Well, I started with them in 1976 when they got together with the Beyond the Fringe team to do a benefit for Amnesty International, and we had the idea that why don't we film that and invent something called comedy verite, as it were, instead of cinema verite. And we did. We filmed them rehearsing, we filmed them backstage, we filmed them having amazing time with each other because they were both heroes to the other. Each one generation, as it were, worshipped the other. And so that was a very intimate film called Pleasure at Her Majesty's, because that was a parody on prisoners, it was at Her Majesty's Theatre.
Yeah.
Then we did another show called Mermaid Frolics, which was a less successful one that you probably won't remember for ITV. And then we did Secret Policeman's Ball, which actually has continued to sell on DVD.
That was huge at the time, and it is still huge, isn't it? You're right. It's still people and it's because it's got so many legends on one stage.
That's true. In fact, I'll tell you a story which you will like, I think. Because the Mermaid Frolics hadn't worked out terribly well, Peter Ustinov told a very long Shaggy's Dog story that nobody understood, and Peter Cook got drunk because Dudley Moore didn't turn up, and it was rather a mess. And John Cleese and I had made an agreement that we were only going to use reliable stars for the next one.
Right.
Anyway, he comes, we were having breakfast discussing this, and he said, well, I've just seen a very brilliant young comedian in Edinburgh, and I want him in the show. And I said, John, come on. We agreed we'd only have stars, and he said, trust me, he's 6'4" and I'm 5'6", so he draws himself up to his full height and looks at me and says, Roger, trust me, he's funny. And it was Rowan Atkinson, who actually stole the show, I have to say, despite the fact he was on with all these brilliant Pythons and everybody else, and Billy Connolly as well.
I imagine it's quite difficult to say no to John Cleese, because he's a big fella, but also he's done all the psychology training. He can make you do anything he wants, surely, can't he?
Well, that's a tough one to answer, but yes, let's say he's a forceful personality. Let's put it that way.
Very diplomatically done.
But I've made 9 films with John, and 5 this is the 5th with the Pythons. And what I'm pleased is that when they'd been filming the rehearsals in preparation for this O2 show, and by June, the Python people themselves and UK TV and Phil McIntyre Entertainment, who had been doing all this, said, hey, we've got enough footage for a documentary to go with a live show. And they said, what a good idea, and said to the Pythons, what do you think? And they said, they will only do it if Roger will do it.
How cool is that?
That was great, actually.
Do they still get on, the Pythons? Because I know it's been tense for a while. Are they friends again?
Well, they were never, as John says very eloquently in the film, they were completely different as personality. You couldn't find, the way he says it, you couldn't find three more different people than Terry Jones, Terry Gilliam, and him.
Yeah.
Mike Palin would get on with absolutely absolutely anybody, including a roaring lion, you know. But it's true.
The nicest man in show business.
He is. He really is the nicest man in show business. And Eric Idle is also very affable, very good guy. But the other three, I mean, particularly Terry Gilliam and John. John says in the film, Terry Gilliam has never said anything that I've agreed with. But he says he's very funny and he's very good, and he's of course brilliant. I mean, Terry Gilliam is the kind of real wild card of the group because you can see from his animation what his mind is like.
He's nuts. He's nuts.
Well, he's nuts in a wonderfully creative way. I mean, the rest of the time he's a very, very good director and a very thoughtful guy. But he is, in some sense, he's tapped into some vein of his imagination that unless you take acid or something, you can't begin to think that it's that the world looks like that. And
so
you can see it.
The film tonight, Roger. Remind me where and when it's on, and what
it's
exactly it is.
It's on UK Gold at 9:00, and it's 90 minutes. Shows the Pythons really as they are, because this was their last show, and they are so honest about each other and about themselves and what it means to them. And we filmed a lot with them backstage during the 10 shows, and you have to. I mean, given that this is my 5th film with them, they revealed a sense of who they were in a way that I'd never seen before, and I'm very proud of the film. I think it really worked.
And is there going to be a DVD with extras on? We all want extras these days.
Yes. Well,
give me more, Roger.
Well, I think 90 minutes of this stuff is with archive going all the way back to their very first stage performance, because it's called The Meaning of Live, because it's about that. It's not about the television shows. And as I say, this is stuff that nobody will ever have seen. So I urge everybody listening to watch it.
Roger, listen, we will get you back if you don't mind. I could talk to you all day. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, Roger. I should be watching that tonight. Roger Grafe. I could listen, honestly, I nearly junked the rest of the show. We've still got to play the audio of me chasing the owners in Newlands Park. We'll do that before the end of the show. But it's just a different world, isn't it? And with the ease, Catherine, the ease with which he rattles off, having worked with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore and John Cleese, it's a different world, isn't it? It's
nice fella as well.
Isn't he lovely? Thank you, Roger. Right, we will play the audio of what happened when Catherine and I were at Mobile Home Park and the owners turned up. We'll play that before 9:00. But before that, let's go to some phone calls. We were speaking about this case of the ex-copper, Simon Laws, got found with some of the most horrific child abuse images on his computer and on DVD. Well, he got a £600 fine, he's got a curfew, he's had his computer taken off him, and a suspended sentence. We spoke to a gentleman called Lyndon Harris, who's an expert on sentencing, and he said, well, yeah, your background should be taken into account. He's spent 30 years, he spent his life in the army and in the police force. That should be taken into consideration. Steve's on the M1. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Ian.
What do you think about what Lyndon was saying?
He makes a lot of sense. Unlike a lot of your guests who were bringing all the emotion into it, it's a matter of law. He was obviously a very intelligent gentleman who made a lot of sense, and people weren't giving him the time, I don't think, to fully understand what he was saying. It's all the emotion, when it comes down to an offence in law, has to be removed. You can't make willy-nilly things because you feel this way or you feel the other way. That's not how the law works.
But his argument was, I don't know if it is in law that you should take into consideration how much public service someone has done in the past. That's down to, I think, the judge's discretion.
Yeah, I think when they sentence someone, they take everything into account, and you can mention anything to the judge. Obviously, it'll be down to that judge.
But then, isn't that based on emotion? If you're using your discretion as opposed to the letter of the law?
I think it's more factual than emotion, isn't it? It's a fact. Whatever you're thinking about someone, what they've done is a fact. Your thoughts around it would be the emotion, and that has to be removed. And that lady made a very good point. The fact that she had issues in her family that she had affected her judgment. She said she was emotional about it, and she said if he'd been in that position, he would be emotional about it. And that is where her whole argument fell apart. That she should be bringing her own emotion into it. She's also in a job that she sees it day in, day out. And that is why her opinion shouldn't be counted, because she has a skewed view on life. She sees horrible people for a living, or she deals with horrible facts.
Steve, it's not the greatest line. We'll let you go. The lady that Stephen was referring to, Marilyn Hawes, Chief Exec of Hertfordshire-based Enough Abuse UK. First call we've had suggesting that Lyndon was right, that you have to take the emotion out of this, and people's backgrounds should be taken into consideration. 08459 455 555. Kevin, stay there. We will come to you, I promise. We will also, after the travel and weather, play exactly what happened when Catherine and I went to a mobile home park where some of the residents are very, very unhappy about what's being done there, and also they feel they don't get to talk to the owners. Well, while we were there, one of the owners turned up. Find out what happened after this.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In Bedford on Goldington Road, it's looking very busy at the moment at Bushmead Avenue, and the A1M southbound, looking at the cameras, it's looking very slow between junction 8 for Hitchin and 7 for Stevenage, just due to a lot of traffic on the road this morning. In Watford and Beecham Grove, it's looking very heavy around Escort Road, and the M25 anti-clockwise on the speed sensors is looking very slow between junction 20 for Kings Langley and 16 for the M40. On the M14 northbound coming off the A40 towards the M25, it's very slow from the Denham roundabout towards the M25, and in Aylesbury the A41 Friarage Road is looking quite busy around the Oxford Road roundabout and the Walton Street roundabout. On the trains, Virgin trains have 15-minute delays between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston because of a signalling problem. That's also affecting Virgin trains, with delays expected until around 8:30 this morning, so they should be clearing up very shortly. Samantha Breath, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Right, it's 8:46. It's Thursday, the 13th of November. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A former soldier and Metropolitan Police detective from Berkhamsted has escaped prison after being caught with nearly 2,500 indecent images and movies of children, some Category A, the worst you can get. Ed Miliband has told the BBC he's had a tough week, but will set out in a speech today how he's determined to change Britain. And scientists at Astrium in Stevenage and the Milton Keynes-based Open University are facing an anxious wait to see whether the probe they launched on a comet has stayed in position or whether it's blown off. Let's get the weather. Here's Sarah.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks very much. It's certainly a mild start. It's a dry start. We've got quite a bit of cloud, but also some breaks here and there. But the cloud will thicken up as we go through the day and eventually bring us a little bit of light and patchy rain for this evening's rush hour. It's dry until then, though, but certainly something to be aware of. As we go through the day, top temperature of 13 Celsius, 55 in Fahrenheit, above average for the time of year. And then downhill for tomorrow morning. Some really heavy rain with us first thing tomorrow morning for the morning rush hour. It will affect things on the roads, and potentially some hail and thunder mixed in with that just at the wrong time. It clears away by mid-morning, though, and behind it, dry for the rest of the day, with some bright spells coming through. And through the weekend, generally a lot of dry and settled weather around, but also quite a bit of cloud and some mist and fog at times, Iain.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah.
Across beds, Herts and Bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Right. Kevin's been hanging on. Morning, Kevin. You wanted to talk about the guest we had earlier, Lyndon, who said that the judge was right to take into account that this gentleman who'd been viewing pornographic images of children, he'd served as a copper and a member of the military, so that should be taken into consideration.
I feel a bit angered, actually, Iain, because of the fact is, what's the difference? I mean, normal people don't view that sort of thing.
Yep.
So why should he be treated any different to someone who isn't in his sort of role as a police officer?
Because according to Lyndon, who is an expert on these things, because he's given so much of his life to public service.
I don't give a monkey's whether he's been in the public. I mean, all right, he's saying then that Jimmy Savile's done X amount for charity. Should that make a difference?
Well, no. I put that to him, and he said that was a bad example because Jimmy Savile used his celebrity.
It's no different.
Well, his argument was that Jimmy Savile had used his celebrity to get into positions where he could abuse people. So he discounted that.
Yeah, but someone of a high role like this officer should know the difference, not to look at stuff like that anyway.
You would think so, Kevin. It's a confusing one. You would think so. 08459 455 555. Now, we've been promising this all morning, so we should probably get to it, shouldn't we, Catherine?
Absolutely.
Been a very busy show. I like these shows where it goes off on tangents and we play stuff late and it's all over the shop. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. This is the mobile home park in Hertfordshire, isn't it? Newlands Park in Abbots Langley. What's their beef, the residents' beef?
Loads of maintenance problems. The bases of their static caravans are crumbling away. Some of the people are having to go underneath and prop up their caravans because they sit in their living room and all of a sudden things give way.
Well, one fella, Paul, has propped it up with a bit of wood. The legs come off.
Well, Paul's caravan is in a right old state. His boiler is twisting, and there were concerns that there might be an explosion at some point. But the thing is, they go to the landlords, and the landlords either ignore their phone calls and their letters, or what we're hearing from the residents is that they are abusive.
Well, the landlords have refused to act. Three Rivers District Council have sent us a pathetic statement. Come on the show, guys, otherwise we'll turn up at your office and do the show from outside your office.
Because in law, Three Rivers granted that licence, and they do have the power to intervene if the landlords aren't doing their bit.
Anyway, we decided to go down there, Catherine and myself, to have a chat to the neighbours and see exactly what was going on. While we were there, we were speaking to the leader of the Residents' Association, Mick Deans, and his neighbour Paul, and well, this happened.
I mean, the thing is when you look at Paul, he told me the other day that the boiler was getting twisted. Now, if that goes and explodes, then you just don't know how many people that's going to take out. And that, to me, is a big health and safety issue, which could cause loss of life.
Well, I haven't been in touch with Three Rivers because they turned around and said that, sadly, they could no longer help me because the owners had owned up. Talking of one of the owners, I think that's probably one of them.
We'll have a quick chase. Chasing after one of the owners of the car. They're not going to stop. Excuse me, can we have a quick word? He's driving off. He's driving off at speed. He's pulled off. He saw me. He definitely saw me. Can we have a word? We're from BBC. Oh. He's pulled off. And he's about to pull out and he's gone. Well, didn't want to have a word, did he? I'm exhausted after chasing that car.
Yeah, well, I was right behind you.
Thanks, chap. Well, there's no one here that wants to talk to us. There's the notice board. Let's go and have a little look at that, because I think there are some phone numbers on there, aren't there? So maybe he didn't see me, and he didn't hear me whistling and shouting, and maybe that's why he sped off when I got a little bit closer to his car. So, the partners of Newlands Park. So, let's go for Mr. Ball, shall we?
You're doing a thing on the front of that, aren't you?
Sorry?
So they can't see your number.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. 141, thank you. See if he answers. Rent day is the 15th of November. Disconnection of your water supply. There's the bill for the water, over £6,200.
This is a bill the residents tried to pay and it got given back to them.
This is the Vodafone voicemail service for 077.
Should we leave a message?
Yeah, go on.
The tone. When you finish recording, please hang up or press the hash key for more options.
Hello, Mr. Ball. This is Iain Lee from BBC Three Counties Radio. We're at Newlands Park. I don't know if you were the gentleman that just drove off in the white Mitsubishi. Perhaps you didn't see me chasing really close to your car. Perhaps you didn't hear me whistling or shouting. It'd be great to have a chat with you about some of the concerns the residents have got. You can send me an email if you want, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk, or maybe we'll try and give you a call later. Thank you. Who should we try now?
Golby, that was the main name, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go for that. It's ringing. Anyone going to answer?
You might be driving.
I'm driving very, very fast. Listen, we're going to present all this evidence to the district council. What's your message to the council? You must want them to come and help.
We want them to enforce their powers. They have the power to take action.
Basically, it's neglected their duties.
The council will hear this. They will hear what you're saying now. What would you say to them directly?
We need help. Help us.
Yes. Yes, help us.
Council aren't bothered. Sorry, it's a little bit windy. Schoolboy error. We forgot to take... You didn't get your muff out.
The mic sock.
Yeah, we should have put a muff on the end of there. It was. I think we've been told it was probably Mr. Golby was the gentleman in the car that I was chasing.
Yeah,
People
because
said that was his
Mr.
car.
Ball's a woman.
Yeah, he's a woman, exactly. It was probably Mr. Golby who was driving the car. He saw me. I was a little bit cocksure. I'll tell you why. That we should say there was a copper on site at the time. Not for our protection. He was talking to one of the residents about an alleged incident. That's kind of what gave me the superpowers.
Well, at one point I thought you were going to climb onto the back of his trailer.
Did you? You rightfully pointed out, that I started huffing and puffing very early into that chase. That's not good. And also I became very common. That was Iain Rugby you were listening to there. That guy doesn't make
I don't think you were very common. I thought it was authentic. That's the Iain I know.
I was channeling the spirit of Matthew Allwright from Rogue Traders.
Oh, he would have been on the trailer.
He would have jumped on there. He'd have jumped on his motorbike and followed the fella down. Listen, Three Rivers District Council, the 2013 Act, I think it is, and well, let's get a copy of the Act so we can have a look at it, does say that you do have the power to step in. You are choosing to ignore that power. You've sent us a statement that is, to be honest, pony. So you need to come on the show and to talk to us. If you don't give us someone to talk to and talk to the residents on the show, we will come and do the show from outside your offices. That will happen. So, if you don't want us rocking up with Catherine and Kelly and J-Dog and Gary Floyd will probably turn up. He likes to erect a little marquee, doesn't he?
Anne Main, we might get Anne Main.
Anne Main might pop down.
The residents are really keen.
They'll probably bring down some, there's a phone call, is that Three Rivers? The residents might bring down some posters and things and some placards. So if you don't want that, and I like doing the show from the studio. It's warm. We get cough brought to us. I'd rather do it from here than from there. But that is an option that we are certainly considering.
Because we are talking about gas boilers now twisting. I mean, is that not a time to step in?
We're talking about 93-year-old women who feel intimidated.
Yeah.
We're talking about...
trees going through windows.
It's not good enough. And your statement is not good enough. And your ignorance of whether you should have to do something or not is not good enough. So, let's come on the air, please. 08459 455 555. What is Kevin's on the show. Morning, Kevin.
Hey, good morning, Iain.
What would you like to do?
I just wanted to commend you on an absolutely brilliant show. I mean, absolutely fantastic. It's had me glued all day.
You sound surprised.
No. All I wanted to say is, fantastic presenter, absolutely unbelievable. Unfortunately, music was a bit naff.
Yeah.
But you can have to push it a bit on the music if you want to get that Gold Award next year.
Yeah, well, you're right. What do you think? Let's go through every member of the team while you're here. What about Justin's contribution to the show today?
Oh, he's brilliant.
Yeah?
Can't fault him.
Is he always brilliant, or was he extra brilliant today?
Not always brilliant.
No.
But when he takes the hot seat, he really shows his colours.
The hot seat? What hot seat?
Well, that's the one that you're sat in.
But he's not as good as me, is he?
Oh. Well,
okay.
Not all of the time, but you're in that hot seat some of the time.
Yeah. What about Kelly? Kelly's contribution to the show. What have you made of that?
We didn't hear that much of Kelly today. You kept her in the background.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say I kept her in the background. I would say that maybe Catherine had kept her in the background. What about Catherine's part in the show today? Kevin, any good?
She's brilliant.
Oh, you see.
She pongs you day in, day out. She is good.
The pony never stops.
Kevin, listen, we've got 30 seconds left. You've been a good sport this morning. You said the music was a bit pony. Tell me what you want. I've got the BBC jukebox here. What song shall we end on?
How about Change by Daniel Merriweather?
Ladies and gentlemen, for Kevin, here's Change by Daniel Merriweather.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
On the M1 northbound, it's queuing because of a rolling roadblock. There's debris on the road because of an accident. That's at the Toddington services. And that's causing some delays this morning between junction 11 and 12, affecting you if you're heading towards Milton Keynes. In Bedford, Goldington Road is very heavy eastbound at Bushmead Avenue. And the A1M southbound's very slow between junction 8 for Stevenage and 7 for the A602. In Watford, Beech and Grove's very heavy at Escourt Road. And the M25 anti-clockwise is looking very slow on the speed sensors between junction 18 14 for Chorleywood and 16 for the M40. On the M40 northbound, it's slow between the Denham roundabout towards the M25, and in Aylesbury it's looking very busy on the A41 Friarage Road around the Oxford Road roundabout and the Walton Street roundabout. On the trains, though, they have returned to a normal service. Samantha Breath, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Samantha. I was miles away there. I'd switched off when that's terrible. I've got another 10 seconds of show. Thank you, Catherine, Kelly, Justin. Excellent stuff indeed. We'll be back tomorrow at 6. Until then, from us, ta-ta.
Local and vocal across Beds, Herts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Iain.